Awesome. Good morning, everyone. There we go. Good morning. Happy Friday. Hopefully everything's going well. Today we're going to be going over the patch notes that came out for Path of Exile 2. So let's get started. Runes of the Return of the Ancients expansion contains a new league, an overhaul to the Path of Exile 2's endgame, including 6 new endgame storylines, 2 ascendancy classes, as well as a huge amount of other content. So we have Origins of Divinity, Hair and the Raven, Rite of the Nameless, Masters of the Atlas, and Waking the Dreamer, which is essentially Delirium, Breach, Ritual, and then just Atlas farming. We have the Spirit Walker and Martial Artist Ascendancies. I am very interested to see what other changes they've made. I'm assuming there's other tweaks that they have mentioned into the patch notes here. And then we have the Remnants, the Crafting Runes, the new skills, which look cool, and the Logbook Ocean. So, yeah. Biggest expansion ever. So, just to quickly say, up at the top here, they have they say Delirium Breach Ritual. If they just repeat pretty much what they said in the launch trailer, the show, plus the recaps, unless I see something new, we'll probably just read over these, just because there's a lot. I will definitely look over the Vol, though, because I want to see what they did with the temple itself. So, Runes of Alder League. Start fresh in a new economy with the League. In each area, you can find a remnant that allows you to craft an item of your choosing by using the runic recipes engraved into the slots in the remnant. Depending on the rune shapes used, you will face an encounter with tough enemies that you will need to defeat in order to claim the item. So yeah, so as I was saying before, this kind of reminds me like a bit of... Oh my goodness, my brain. I mentioned this last time when we watched the trailer. The Crafting League. Forge League. Oh man, I can't remember the name. So it's like you can charge it, then it will spawn the enemies, defeat them, get the result. Fair enough. Each additional rune shape will increase the number of waves of enemies, so each one is a wave added, adding more modifiers. Remnants start with any number of slots between 2 and 10, with higher numbers being much rarer but allowing you to craft much rarer items. Monsters raised by the remnants can drop Verisium Metal, the new currency. New Pharaoh NPC with 4 new quests in the campaign, allowing you to unlock various new crafting features, which is, I think they showed, it was like the basic one, which just allows you to do the runes. The second one is adding ward to armor. The third one was the weapons. And then the fourth one, I'm assuming... Well, I guess it couldn't be the meteor. Like the changing of the core to the unique armors, because that's in endgame. So I wonder what the fourth one is. Oh, no, they said it was... No, I remember those 3. Okay. Oh, here. So, rune forging. After unlocking it in Act 1, the system allows you to add runic ward to your armors by spending Verisium. Armors lower than 55 gain runic ward with no downside. Armors above this level trade some of their regular base defenses for runic ward. Yeah, because they said that they wanted to be able to not remove any power during the campaign. Runic Ward obviously is a defense that kicks in once you reach 1 life, allowing you to continue to survive. While your Runic Ward takes damage, it regenerates independently of your life. So, one thing is that in the trailer, there wasn't a wait time from them getting hit to it regenerating. I wonder if it's a constant thing. Also, I like the fact that it kicks in once you reach 1 life. So anything low life or 1 HP kind of thing, you could do some interesting stuff with that, I think. I'm assuming that works with like my brain wants to say chaos inoculation. That could be interesting, especially because we saw the brass dome change, where instead of armor, if you rune forge it, it gives you a massive amount of ward instead. The other thing I'm not sure about is if ward gets affected by things like armor. I would assume so, but not sure. 13 new alloy currency items, which can be unlocked through the encounters after completing Pharaoh's quest in Act 2. Oh, okay, so it's armor, alloys, something, weapons. 1 sec here. These items add various new crafted modifiers to items by replacing an existing one, similar to perfect essences or like chaos orbs. After unlocking unique Verzium rune forging in Act 3, you can upgrade the base type of weapons and armors that drop it. Okay, so it is armors next. Okay, so it's base armors, alloys, unique weapons and armor, then the custom ones for the weapons. Upgrading unique weapons will have higher damage. Armor will have improved base defenses as well as Runic Ward, allowing them to be more competitive at higher levels. Unique armors above level 55 can still be rune forged to modify their defenses to include Runic Ward at a cost of reducing their other defenses similar to the base types. Okay. It also has unique properties when used on Kalguran uniques, which they did mention. I'm interested to see what they actually are, though, because they haven't revealed any of them. Except, I think they showed the one of the options. I think it was a mace, if I remember correctly. Ancient runes can now be unlocked by crafting remnant encounters after completing Pharaoh's quest in Act 4. Powerful bonuses specific to each weapon type. 13 mythical early game runes that can be crafted from encounters to provide a significant boost to level 15 plus characters. Interesting. Mythical runes. Level 15 is pretty early on too, so... 3 fluxes can be crafted from remnants to transform the resistances of your items from one element to another. Oh, that's cool. So they showed off the one where you can combine elemental damage types on a weapon into one, but I don't think we've had a way of transforming resistances. That's cool. Huh. Yeah, that's really cool. Like, if you have a piece of equipment and you have over-res, like if you're over-capped and you're under-capped in something else, just use this and swap it over. I'm guessing it's random which of the 3 it rolls to, but still. 15 meta crafting runes that can be crafted from them. 60 runes that can be crafted by destroying a unique to make a rune that gains some of its properties. Okay, so there's like 60-something uniques that you can get it from. I wonder if they specify. 15 ward runes that can be crafted from remnants, adding or modifying properties relating to runic ward, which is cool. 21 Kalguran skills that can be crafted from remnants, Animus Exchange, Animus Splinters, Bitter Dead, Conductive Runes, Detonate Living, that's funny, Eternal March, Explosive Transmutation, Fragments of the Past, Frost Flame Nova, Grim Pillars, Hollow Shell, Ley Lines, Powered by Verisium, sounds interesting, Refutation, Remnants of Kalgur, Repulsion, Runic Reprieve, Skyfall, it's a James Bond movie, Triskelion Cascade, which is the one we also saw there in the trailer, Verisium Manifestation, and Voltaic Barrier. Interesting. So we saw Frostflame Nova and Triskelion Cascade. We also saw Repulsion Rune. I don't know if we've seen the rest. I don't think so. 8 new Kalguran supports that can be crafted from them as well. Concussive Runes, Fist of Kalgur, Healing Runes. Sounds interesting. Kalguran Conviction, Runeforge Blades, Runic Extraction, Runic Infusion, and Scouring Flame. Expedition Remnants have been changed into the Remnants from Runes of Elder, which makes sense. New endgame story. So this is the new expedition with Pharaoh to explore the ocean as you investigate the tombs of fallen Kalgurans and challenge them to earn remarkable rewards. Seek out the crater of a fallen star, a meteor of pure Verisium, from which you hope to forge objects of immense power if you can defeat what awaits you there. There's now a hub area, the ruins of Kingsmarch, for the runes of Aldur, to the southeast of your starting location on the Atlas. Logbook mechanic has been changed to an ocean exploring mechanic. Using logbooks now unveils a section of the ocean with a variety of islands to explore. Yeah, because they said the old logbooks now are going to be turned into like grand expeditions, I think. Many new underground areas have been added that can be uncovered during those expeditions. Many new islands have been added with the... There you go. With new grand expeditions previously known as logbooks. Medved, Voriana, and Uhtred join Ulroth as the 4 faction leaders available to fight on new islands that you can discover in the ocean. Defeating Ulroth gives you a key that you can use to access the new pinnacle boss for the Runes of Aldur. Wait, I think Ulroth was the one that summoned the meteor, I think, right? But the meteor is separate from the pinnacle boss. Because this says it gives you a key that you can use to access the new pinnacle boss. Huh. Or maybe that's what you, the key, quote-unquote, is what you use to actually create the shield to get through the radiation, they said. Or whatever magic effect that was. New Runes of Elder Challenge League, which is definitely something we're going to be working at, includes the first set of challenges in PoE 2. Earn pieces of the Knight of Elder armor set when you complete 2, 4, 6, and 8 challenges in that league. These challenge rewards are only obtainable in the league. Yeah, so if you don't do them in the league, that's it. Oh, sorry about that. From the first challenge onwards, and for every challenge after that, you will receive pieces of the Runes of Aldur totem decoration to display in the hideout. The totem... Wait, I thought they said that it was the statue instead of a totem. Maybe they're still calling it a totem, but it is the statue? Decoration to display in the hideout. The totem pole permanently showcases how many of the challenges you completed during this league. All of your old characters from early access launch are still present, but a free passive tree refund has been granted due to the changes. We would highly encourage you to join the new league to fully take in the changes that have been made with the 0.5.0 update. And with it, there are standard, hardcore, and solo self-found variations of the Challenge League available. They have the same core mechanics and items, and you can create private league versions of them. Hardcore variations of the league are parented to their standard equivalent, meaning if you die in the hardcore, you can continue the same character in the standard Runes of Aldor League. Yeah. I'm just tempted to start hardcore just for the sake of seeing how far we can get. I'm not known for my extreme build proficiency because I like doing weird stuff. So just because we have the runic ward now as kind of like a safety, a little bit more defense, I am tempted to try it. So we might do that. Endgame, the Atlas now has fixed points of interest at specific locations, giving you a distinct objective that is easy to find. I really like this, by the way. Oh. Sorry, I got the follower goal, but I cannot see the follower notification. Our anonymous person, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sorry. Distraction. So a lot of people were saying don't make the Atlas infinite, which is a valid point considering where we were before. I personally liked the infinite Atlas, so you can kind of expand wherever you want, although I definitely understand from an ease of access point of view too. Like let's say PoE 1. So in the Atlas, you know, like if you have, let's say, the beach map unlocked, you can always play the beach map. In this, you can't replay zones once you've cleared them, so you have to then wait for a new map to show up. So that's kind of rough. The other thing is that because it was random, it was very hard to find the things you needed to do, especially for pinnacles and other like end game content like bosses. I personally think this is like kind of the best situation. So they have the distinct points of interest, but they've also said the entrances for all of the pinnacle fights are also in those locations. So those are the same locations every time. So you don't have to keep searching for it and hope you find it. So I think this is a really good kind of middle ground between them. And I personally am a fan, even though it's a little unfortunate you have to do some map searching if you're looking for a particular map. But still, I do like what they did with this. Atlas now has fixed points of interest at specific locations, giving you distinct objectives. Yep. All league mechanics on the Atlas now have quests that introduce the mechanic and guide you through its various stages up to the pinnacle boss. And you get to do, it shows you the quest version of the pinnacle boss, which I really like. Because then you can kind of have an explanation over the actual mechanic, but then also it teaches you how you need to acquire the keys to reach it afterward. All pinnacle bosses now have a quest. Oh, okay, now the quest versions that can be accessed deterministically, alongside repeatable non-quest versions that offer a greater challenge, and 30 new endgame map areas. That is a lot of map areas. It's kind of concerning. I am assuming they're not saying, like, the Arbiter, I think he's called, not Ash, Divinity. I'm assuming his battleground, if you want to call it that, isn't included in this 30 new map areas. I'm assuming this is specifically like the Atlas maps, like beach, ruins, catacombs, that kind of thing. And if so, 30 new areas is a lot, because I hope they're good. Not saying I have, you know, some disbelief in them or something like that, but we've definitely come across a lot of maps before that have kind of been a pain in the butt for one way or another. Maybe it's, if you have minions, they have a hard time getting through doorways and stuff like that. Specific mechanics like breach on closed maps can be a pain in the butt if they're not designed well, because there's a wall separating half of the objective from you and you can't get to it in time before it ends. Things like that. So I'm a bit wary, but if they're decent to good, I am very happy. 30 new areas is a lot. Origins of Divinity, the Endgame Overhaul. So the new endgame storyline, Cataclysm of the Beast, has invoked an ancient protocol designed to scour for and purge corruption should it ever take hold to this degree. I feel like I am Jonathan right now. So this is exactly, I think, the wording they used in the trailer. Transverse the Atlas to enter the fortress and enter the gates. Obtain the keys to reach the ancient precursor weapons and disarm them. On completion of the first tower, the fortress rises out of the earth. Maps inside the fortress grant one or more passive points for the Atlas tree. It entirely replaces the previous method of obtaining Atlas points, which is fair. Atlas tree has been significantly expanded with over 300 nodes, and after completing all the maps inside the fortress, you will have enough to fully allocate the tree. Now, this was kind of a weird feeling on this before we knew that we could do the multi-choice ones, because it's kind of like, oh, well, everyone's going to have the same, but not anymore. As the entire Atlas tree can be fully allocated, there is no need to allow respecialization for it anymore. Yeah, that's fair too. That's a huge gold cost that we wouldn't have to worry about. Multi-choice nodes on the tree can be changed between options at any time. Oh. I wonder if they still have presets for it, though. Like, I could preset the multiple choices that I made. Like, I would do certain multi-choice choices for Breach, and others for Abyss, for example. Not sure. Many maps in the fortress have ancient modifiers that add or modify the contents of the map. Any maps with modifiers that add secondary content to a map also implicitly add that content to the map as well. Oh, interesting. Okay. So this is like, you can juice the maps a little bit with this, right? So you have ancient modifiers that can add or modify content to the map, but also you can have secondary content in addition to that. I wonder how that works, because they said that, I think it was in the Q&A, that you can lock content by adding 3 tablets to a map, because each map only has 3 things that it can hold. So you could do like breach, abyss, you know, something like that. It's gonna be interesting to check out. And I wonder how that's gonna interact with the special modifiers, because like the 2 examples they gave were every rare monster starts in an essence, or there are no monsters, they're all in lock boxes or strong boxes. So that's going to be interesting. 40 new ancient modifiers that have a chance to appear on any map outside the fortress. Okay, so they're guaranteed inside, and they can randomly appear outside. That was something else I had a question about. All right. 3 gateway maps with 2 new bosses that can be used to access different sections of the fortress. Okay, so in order to get to those other, like, I'll call them blocks, you do need to do these new bosses. Precursor tower maps have been added outside the fortress. Burning Monolith, along with the Arbiter of Ash, have been moved into the fortress. Oh, so I wonder if Arbiter of Ash is now one of those two bosses. Because, yeah, they said Arbiter of Ash is no longer a pinnacle. Interesting. Quest versions of the Crisis Fragments have been added to 2 Enigma chambers inside the fortress. Oh, interesting, okay. 2 new Citadel maps with 2 new bosses that drop keys to the new Pinnacle boss. So you need to fight those 2 bosses to get the keys for the Divinity. Yeah, Arbiter of Divinity, Pinnacle boss. Maps in the fortress can be alternatively completed by killing the Arbiter of Divinity 5 times to complete different sections of the fortress automatically in order to gain Atlas Tree points. First of all, I wonder if that means the quest version and then 4 more, or does that mean you need to kill the quest version and then 5 of the normal ones? So I wonder, like, if you get out of the campaign, push towards the fortress by getting your first precursor tower, and immediately enter the fortress and try and go for the Arbiter of Divinity, I wonder if not like insane builds, but general builds, I wonder if they have enough power to just fight him 5 times in a row. Because I'm assuming you would also need to find the keys again. Right? 2 new Citadel maps with 2 bosses that drop keys to the new Pinnacle boss. So you have to get more of those Citadel map bosses in order to get it. So I guess you can't specifically, unless you're like insanely lucky and maybe there's multiple spawns you find in the Atlas right away. Then we have Masters of the Atlas. So alongside the tree, a new system called Masters of the Atlas introduces an ascendancy style progression for the endgame. I do like this so far, actually. Players can align themselves with different masters, such as Jado of the Order of the Jinn, or the Monster Hunter Hilda. That's an interesting mouthful. Each offering unique asymmetric bonuses that can be swapped out between maps at will, enabling build-defining bonuses. I also like the iconography that they have on these, by the way. They did show them in the trailer, but instead of just like a line of text, there's like different, you know, icons that just kind of match the Path of Exile style. It's something small, but I just like it. Each master has 12 nodes, of which 4 can be selected at the same time, and you can switch your selection at any time. All 3 masters can be allocated at the same time, with quick select buttons to change between each master before you can run the map, which we did see. Unlock each row of 3 by performing missions for the masters. There's Doriani's Science questline is unlocked by clearing a corruption nexus. Hilda's Hunting is unlocked by visiting her campsite slightly southwest of your starting location. And Jado's Spycraft is unlocked by completing an anomaly map near the starting location. So it's nice that they have things near the starting location for sure. The one thing that they don't mention here that they did say in the Q&A though, is each row, you are not limited to one choice. So for example, it's 3 by 4, right? But if you really wanted to, in the first row, you could take all 3 and one of a different row. So they don't mention it here, but I believe they did say that in the Q&A. Okay, Delirium. So this is all the stuff we've seen already. So the Withered Willows, the new hub area. Passive tree's been revamped. Breaking the Mirror, you see the progress bar. I do like how they're simplifying and cleaning up the visuals, like for Delirium. Like being able to visually see how far the Delirium is, how close to you it is to ending, how far you are to the map boss, and the red and I think purple mirrors, or red and something, for the extra encounter effects. Reaching certain depths will cause colored mirror shards to appear. Walking into them will break them, activating the new encounter. Direction of the map boss can be observed by looking at the fog effect. Oh my goodness. Mobs. Map bosses in Delirium will always be 100% delirious. That's concerning. Damage and life bonuses given to monsters from Delirium has been reduced. Okay, good. 5 new elite Delirium monsters, which I think we saw that you can activate by shattering one of the mirror shards. I think it's the purple one. There's also the Loathsome Mire, which is the red mirrors, which is supposed to be like the horrors of your subconscious. Loathsome Mire drops 2 new amulet base types that grant 2 instilled notables at either the cost of -1 suffix or -1 prefix. Yeah, that's pretty worth it. I mean, isn't this just kind of like talismans in a way? But better because they're not corrupted, so you can actually, you know, craft on them and edit them as you see fit. So, talismans, but better. Liquid emotions can now be used to craft additional mods on jewels. They work similarly to greater essences, each having a set of specific ones that will replace a random existing mod on them, which is nice. Completing the mirrors now has a chance to spawn grand mirrors in the atlas on a nearby map. Grand mirrors create the duplicate of the map boss and the affected it, and killing both gives you access to Trial of Madness, which is the giant pillar where you grab the fruit out of. After triggering it, fog will spread from a map of your choosing, including a locked simulacrum. While inside the fog, the entire map is delirious, starting at 10%. Killing rare monsters and the map boss increases it of all maps in the fog. So if you wanted an easier time, it's better not to kill the rares. Right? Because right now you only need to kill the map boss, I think, to complete the map. So if you want a better reward, but more challenge, defeating all the rare monsters is better. On reaching 100%, the simulacrum will become available. Deliriousness can continue to be increased up to 200%. So I guess killing rare monsters might be better if you're trying to get to the simulacrum faster. Rare and unique monsters in Delirious maps have a set of their own Delirious modifiers, giving them strange new abilities. Map bosses can additionally drop a new set of 3 potent emotions that can be used to craft new powerful modifiers on jewels that are not available on the normal pool. These can also be used to instill a set of 16 new passive tree notables that are not normally available on the tree. Simulacrum has been updated, is now a 7-wave encounter. Oh, that's so much better. I think it was 15 before, right? Unless they're making it more difficult, but I'm assuming not because they haven't said anything. But yeah, I mean, if it's still kind of similar to that, I much prefer the 7-wave over 15. Plus, it's faster. Completing it will now give you a key to face the new Delirium Pinnacle boss, which is Tenmazu. There's a new set of 10 ancient emotions that can drop if unlocked by the Atlas tree, which can be used to craft time-lost jewels. Also, there are 3 ancient potent emotions that can be used to craft new powerful modifiers on time-lost jewels that are not normally available in the mod pool. And then some non-amulet Delirium uniques now drop with the Raven-touched modifier, allowing them to be instilled. That's cool. So, unfortunately, they're fully taking over Blight. But, It'll be interesting to see what happens when they add it eventually. Alright, Breach. New storyline. Monastery of the Keepers hub area to the south. Revamped Atlas passive, Tree for Breach. Starting the Breach. So yeah, so they brought all the stuff over from PoE 1 into PoE 2, essentially. Stabilize it. Varun, Marshal of Zesht. Genesis Tree. Allows you to consume wound gifts and hive blood to create items. It is interesting that you cannot create weapons and armor anymore. It's still really nice, because generally rings, amulets, belts, and currency. That's interesting. Well, we did see the minion changes to minion bonuses that you can have on them as well, which is cool. Those can be allocated. 6 new ring base types. 4 new amulet types. 4 new belt types. And a new set of caster and minion mods that can be crafted onto rings and belts using the tree. Catalysts can no longer drop from monsters. They are now solely obtained from the tree. Interesting. So it pushes catalysts to be a breach mechanic specific now, which I guess is good if you're playing trade, because then you can like if you want to focus on breach, you have a sellable. Added a new set of 12 catalysts that can add new quality modifiers to jewels. Right. I was kind of unsure about this. I guess it depends on what they are. First of all, it's just more quality stuff that we have to do, but... They don't list them here, obviously, so... Killing monsters in a breach now drops high blood and wound gifts and splinters. They can be turned into a special wound gift when fully stacked, which is how you make the breach stones. To do hives, breach, sky, and sky fortresses. Yeah. So this is the same as PoE 1. Yes. Okay. But yeah, that's still better. I like the PoE 1 changes they did. So. Ritual. Yeah, so she's bound to the Wildwood, searching for someone who might answer the call. So again, most of this was in the trailer itself. Air Tarth, new hub area. Which I kind of like that they're adding new hub areas. And again, the maps around the specific locations all contain the League mechanic encounters, which is cool. Rework the passive tree for it. After completing a ritual altar on a map, locusts will point the way to the next altar, which again, I said I really liked because that's visual or environmental, you know, pointers without pointing a giant orange arrow and says this way. They changed it to uniques and omens only in ritual rewards, which I kind of like, but I somehow have an idea that this is going to be very similar to the Nameless Seer, where it's going to not give you not great uniques the entire time until you find like one amazing one. Any tribute not spent on rewards can be sacrificed to gain audience with the king, so we don't have to worry about buying splinters with the tribute. And if you want to focus on getting to the king, you don't have to take any rewards and just give it all, which is really nice. Killing the King in the Mist now drops a new key, the Head of the King, which can be used in Kaertarth to begin the Rite of the Nameless. The new Atlas mechanic, which you choose a series of 5 maps to complete in a single continuous ritual, which includes the map bosses from the previous maps. So yeah, you can fight up to 5... Well, actually, you can fight more. So you can fight up to 5 map bosses normally, but then they said that they added Atlas Tree passive nodes that can add other mechanics like the Ritual Stone, which summons a random boss. So you could technically add more. I don't know the specifics, but just based off that, if you're really lucky, you can get up to 10 bosses. Because you might get the Ritual Stone 5 times if you spec into it. So you could summon an extra boss every map. That's kind of funny to think about. When choosing maps, they will contain an extra modifier that affects the difficulty and rewards after the first. So the first one does not include one. Each map awards 1 element of the key to access the Ritual Pinnacle boss. They added the Queen of the Mists available after allocating a specific node. They can drop 3 new corrupted idols. Interesting. And then the Freythorn rituals are now prevented from ever showing deferred items to ensure items are not lost if returning to this area on a higher level character. Oh, interesting. Huh, okay. Okay, here's the big one too. Fate of the Vol moving to core. It's been added to the core game. You'll first encounter a series of 6 beacons in Act 3. Okay, so you can do like a full Val Temple in Act 3. You'll encounter a second set of 6 in the interlude. Okay, so they guarantee 2 temple runs minimum. Not bad. There's now an Atlas passive tree for it. Can now be found on the Atlas to the northeast of the starting location in the city of Lyraval. Maps inside of it always have the crystals and grant points for the passive tree. There's also a new precursor tablet that guarantees the beacons in your map if you want to focus on them. No longer possible to prevent a room from being deleted from the temple. Rooms that must be deleted but have other connections will be turned into simple path rooms, preventing the snake strategy. Okay, so they have kind of prevented that. I wonder if there's a way of just making everything empty rooms though, so you could just build straight towards the architect and then at Ziri right away. Maybe. Number of rooms in the temple when first starting is increased to allow getting to Edziri more quickly. Okay, there you go. Rooms can now be upgraded to tier 4 after unlocking an ability in the Atlas tree. Allows more specialization into particular room types and encourages more interesting temple layouts. That's cool. I wonder, I'm assuming there's some sort of weighting that you can influence, like if you prefer seeing treasuries or forges, something like that, you might be able to increase the amount you find. That'd be pretty cool. Reward rooms granted from the console after defeating the architect have been significantly improved, okay, with more varieties to unlock in addition to upgrading the rewards of all existing ones. So better rewards and more options to pick from. Always good. Restricted rooms in the temple that are accessible will always destabilize on exiting it. Oh, interesting. So if you have the ability to get to it, you need to do it, or if you leave the temple, they will guaranteed delete. Okay. Temple medallions now have their drop rate scaled with the number of paths in the temple in addition to other rooms. Oh, interesting. So the more branching paths you have, Interesting, okay. Room-based medallions can no longer be used inside an active temple. I guess that makes sense. They also display upgrade information when hovered. And now output descriptive error messages when they cannot be placed. That's nice. It's like, why can't I place this here? Default maximum number of crystals you can store has been increased to 60. And the maximum number of medallions is 6. So you can store up to 60 energized crystals. So you could run a bunch of temples back to back if you really wanted to. The medallions that increase the number of stored crystals or medallions are no longer necessary, which makes sense. Monster level of the temple now factors in the level of the areas where the crystals used to open it were obtained. That's kind of nice. So when you're doing it through the campaign, it's actually probably better to run them at that level. Unless you're just trying to like blitz the campaign or something like that. Corruption Temple Chamber bonuses have been updated to add monster modifier chance instead of additional monster modifiers. Okay. Portals created in the Temple of Exile now create a corresponding portal in the parent Val ruins for ease of access. Great. Quality of life. Beacons can now show a grayed out icon in the minimap when completed. There's 4 types of infusers. Existing ones are now Val infusers are Val armor's infusers, which can be applied to armor. The blacksmiths can be applied to martial weapons, and arcanist infusers can be applied to wands, staves, and scepters. Catalyzing infusers can be applied to jewelry, and all of them can be used on items at or above 20% quality. Okay. That's still cool. Fate of all currency items now have a maximum stack size of 5,000 when stored in the wildcard slots in the currency stash tab, which is nice. Some of the possible outcomes from applying cultivation orbs to unique items have been updated. So, nerfed life cost efficiency, severe nerf on the energy shield, which is one of the things I'm interested in seeing the player and item changes, how much they've changed energy shield, because they did say they're bringing it down, so we'll see how much. Reduced life cost efficiency by like half. Oh, interesting. Hateforge unique gloves now roll 16 to 30 maximum rage if you've used a skill that requires glory in the past 20 seconds. So previously it was 8 to 12 per glory skill in 6 seconds up to 5 times. So you get the maximum rage easier, but you can get a lot less, right? Because you could get up to 60 maximum rage, so you get half of it. But the time it lasts is also massively increased. Instead of 6 seconds, you just have to use 1 every 20 seconds. So overall, nerf, but buff in the sense of ease of access and use. Wrathpith Globe Focus can now roll 8 to 15% increased life cost, down from 8 to 12 to 20. So yeah, they're reducing a lot of efficiency on life cost here. Can no longer roll elemental ailments other than freeze you inflict as reflected to you. Instead now being able to roll 10 to 15% increased damage per curse on you. See, that's cool because the new wand that they showed off was your curses have no effect. I wonder how that works. Because I'm pretty sure the wand ability is enemy, but it would be funny if it could ricochet towards yourself. But yeah, if you have a way of applying or reflecting curses to yourself, and then you have the wand that has curses have no effect, because the wand lets you have unlimited, like, no cap on curses, so you could go like every single curse in the game, or I think it's curses, not hex. I'll have to check that later, but that's cool. Interesting though. Vertex no longer has 2 to 4 level of all skill gems, now being 3 to 5 level of all curse. Oh yeah, so that's the other thing too, is they were overall nerfing the plus to level of items, because it was kind of just a necessary thing, especially for like minions and stuff like that. So changing it from all skill gems to specifically curse also kind of focuses on a curse helmet instead of just +4 to every class ability. Right, Abyss can be shown on the Atlas. They will close and give you abyssal depths with a boss fight. I like that it's guaranteed. The Abyss tree has been revamped. Invitation is now always allocated to the map owner. Omens no longer drop in areas below level 65. Okay. It's interesting. So you have to push to 65 to start getting them. Modifiers to the number of chests found now apply to chests found in the Abyss. Oh, interesting. These also apply to the chance to find an abyssal depths, so the chance to find a depth does not decrease with more chests in the area. Oh, interesting. That's cool. So I guess before, if you had your map includes more chests, it had a chance, because the abyssal depth has chests, it decreased a chance of this spawning. I had no idea. Adjusted the damage of meteoric demise abyss modifier. Adjusted. Down, right? You've made it less, correct? Not higher? I don't know how I feel about this wording. Lithomantic runes from the monster modifier are now active after a longer delay, which is nice. Expedition League has been temporarily disabled on standard leagues due to the integration with Runes of Alder. This will be reintegrated into standard after the league is over. Recombinator has been disabled, combination has been removed, and existing omens will be deleted on logging in. The Forgotten by Time precursor tablet has been temporarily disabled from dropping. The explosives now wait to explode until most of the monsters unearthed by the previous one have been killed. That's nice. So you don't have to deal with like this massive wave instantly building up on you. Especially considering a lot of the monster modifiers now from the remnants, like the remnants from the League, are replacing the old expedition ones. So you're adding a ton of monster modifiers by crafting on those runes. So this makes it way better to deal with. You can now use currency from your stash to purchase items from the vendors. That's very nice. You don't have to bring it with you. Cool. Other endgame changes. With the introduction of the new endgame storyline, the Atlas has been reset. Your existing tablets and waystones will continue to work, so you can continue your progression as normal, but in order to gain points for the Atlas tree, you will need to do the Origins of Divinity storyline. Also added support for searching to the endgame Atlas map, which we saw in the demo, which is amazing. You can now zoom out slightly further on the Atlas screen to see further around you. 2 versions of each Pinnacle boss, the Quest version and the Infinite Farm version. I like that. It's not normal version, it's the Infinite Farm. As such, primary, secondary, and tertiary calamity fragments can no longer be obtained. Makes sense. Tablets of the same type may be used together to increase the amount of League content that is spawned. Specifics of this are different each content type. In some cases, adding multiple tablets will increase the size of a single encounter, while in other cases, it will increase the number of them spawned. Interesting. So I wonder if you, for example, do Breach, and it's one of the defense hives, while Aelith destroys it. I wonder if it makes a bigger, like, stronghold kind of thing in that area. Or it adds more of them. Interesting. Each empty tablet slot now contributes to the same amount of random non-spawned League content in the area. So yeah, so you can lock in 3. This means that if tablet slots are full, you will only see the League content from the tablets you are using. Very nice. The intent of this change is to make sure that you do not need to complete the Atlas trees for leagues you do not intend to run. Which is nice. Waystones must now be identified in order to activate them in the map device, and you can now use Orb of Chance on the tablets, which is cool. I'm gonna need some more tea here. Some items and content require you to specialize in them through the Atlas passives, including exceptional items, fracturing orbs, basic, and overseer precursor tablets. Oh, interesting. So unless you spec into it, you just can't get those anymore. Interesting, but I don't know if I like that. I'm not sure how I feel. Sorry, 1 second here. Sorry about that. So yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, again, I guess it's kind of the same as the previous, where that means that based on the actual Atlas passive tree you're using, you get more benefits through trading. Tablets can no longer be used on maps that cannot have extra content, such as unique maps, which makes sense. League-specific ones no longer drop from non-map areas, such as Simulacrum, Abyssal Depth, or Twisted Domain. Okay. Lowered the base chance for Essence, Spirits, Shrines, Strongboxes, Summoning Circles, and Rogue Exiles appearing in maps somewhat, due to the much larger increase now available on the tree. Yeah, we haven't done like a full viewing of the new Atlas tree yet, so it's a little hard to say, but I'm assuming that's accurate. Atlas passives that reference maps with powerful map bosses now work with Overseer, Precursor tablets, and other sources of powerful map bosses, so it doesn't just have to be natural. Modifiers for Precursor tablet. Modifiers be similar to those granted by Waystone modifiers. Also reduce the roll variance. I don't know if this is up or down because I haven't used these very much. But I guess it's just like kind of homogenizing it a little bit. Following modifiers can no longer roll on Waystones. Barrens, Beastly, Bramble, Doriani, Enervating, Faradune, Hallowed, of Nemesises, Perennial, Rusted, and Sacrificial. Which I'm guessing is relating specifically to the content that we can now get by choice. Prefix modifiers are now suffixes. Oh, sorry. Whether a map modifier is a suffix or a prefix has been adjusted so that generally prefixes are modifiers that affect a monster output towards the player, and suffixes are modifiers that affect the player or monster defense. Oh, that's cool. So they've just changed it around so it's much easier to try and see the information. I like that. And there's the list of them there for both. Overpowering Waystone modifier no longer causes monsters to have increased freeze, buildup, shock chance, or inflict increased flammability magnitude. It now causes monsters to have an increased elemental ailment application. Oh, so but that's just across the board then. So instead of having freeze, buildup, shock chance, or that as a specific modifier, they're making it global. Which I guess is better, but worse at the same time, depending on the value. Waystone modifier bonuses have been updated. They provide more monster effectiveness, pack size, item rarity, monster rarity, or Waystone drop chance depending on it. They are multiplicative with other sources, such as on the Atlas tree. Modifiers to pack size now provide a chance for an additional rare monster to appear in rare monster packs. Rarity is now... Monster rarity is a new stat available that affects the chances of magic and rare monsters and the chance of additional modifiers on rares. So that's cool. Map modifiers that include sources of increased number of rare monsters or increased number of magic monsters have been updated to only display the number at the header of the map and not also be displayed amongst the explicits. Not a functional change. Half the bonus of quantity of item dropped and experience gained by increased monster effectiveness, like from the temple. Ooh. That kind of sucks. Functionality of Omen of Chaotic Rarity, quantity, and monsters have been inverted. Instead of guaranteeing the new modifiers are of their type, they instead prevent the modifiers from being of their type. Interesting, okay. So that's worse, right? Because now there's more options that can roll because you're only getting rid of one. From my understanding. New Omen of Effectiveness. When it's active in your inventory, your next Chaos Orb will replace all modifiers on a Waystone with modifiers that do not grant effectiveness. Interesting. Up to 3 of them can be used simultaneously. Half the damage as extra buffs granted from the shrines. Freezing, Gloom, Meteoric, and Tempest. Oh, okay. Wait. So did they bring the new belt from Mirage in as Mage Blood? Because that's what they did in Mirage. They nerfed some of the shrines. Like, I don't remember these, like, the damage bonus from these shrines ever being, like, a problem that I ever heard about. Huh. Interesting. Completion of fixed locations on the Atlas is now shared with party members, which is nice. With the addition of more varied content in the map, the size of content indicators has been increased, and Waystones have received new art. Nice. I mean, yeah, all of this is pretty nice so far. To improve how long it takes for more experienced players to replay through the game in each new league, we've added elements to the campaign areas to tell you where to go, which we already saw, again, in the video. Some areas throughout the game have been shortened. They removed the second Dreadnought area, which is fine. I didn't see the need for a second area anyway, so makes sense. Area order in Act 3 has been somewhat rearranged in order to make progression smoother. Fair enough. Waterway levers have now been turned into pressure pads that you simply need to walk over, and the final part of the level has the water pre-drained. Okay. I mean, I kind of like the animation, but I can understand why. Monster density in the second half of the campaign has been reduced. Oh. Really? Especially in the interludes to allow getting through the areas more quickly. I don't know how I feel about that. Because, like, generally, when you're in the later half of the campaign and the interludes, that's when you start getting decent, well, especially interludes, is when you're getting decent gear that's going to get you ready for the Atlas. Especially since there's a lot more boss content to do now. I get that it allows you to get through it quicker, but not sure. Not sure how I feel about that. Player changes. Alright, here we go. Bleed damage on players is no longer increased while the player is moving. This change does not affect player bleeds that applying to monsters. Okay. That's really nice. That's really nice. Okay. So if an enemy bleeds you, you don't have to worry about standing still or, you know, your health bar instantly depleting. That's awesome. Maximum runic ward is now added to your starting honor when completing Trial of the Second One. That's great. Makes sense. Defense keyword is no longer in use. Oh. Existing uses of the word defenses now explicitly refer to armor, evasion, and energy shield. To make it more clear for these modifiers, that these modifiers do not apply to runic ward, resistances, block, or other forms of protection. Really descriptive change. I like that. Because, like, when you open defenses or looked up defenses, generally you would find resistances. I wouldn't normally see runic ward or block, but resistances for sure. So that's nice, especially for newer players. So Leech got a big nerf, apparently. Only a single Leech instance per resource, so life, mana, or energy shield, can apply at a time. So you can have a Leech instance applying to life, one applying to mana, and one applying to energy shield, but you can only have one at a time dedicated to each. When multiple Leech instances are active, only the one with the highest recovery rate will recover you until it expires, which then will choose the next highest instance, which is nice at least. So you can stack up instances of Leech, and then when one runs out, the next one will immediately start, so you don't have to, like if I jump into a pack of monsters and hit a giant AoE, the primary Leech will happen, but then if I get hit and have to walk away without leeching, it'll just start the next instance instead of just stopping until I hit another monster. There's now a limit on the maximum amount of damage a hit can be considered to deal for Leech. That hits that deal less than 40,000 total damage are unaffected, but if a hit would deal more than 40,000 total damage, it is treated as dealing only 40,000 damage for the purposes of Leech calculation. That seems really low. Like, from a lot of the people that I saw kind of speculating on this, they were thinking like 200,000 or more. Interesting. The values of each damage type in the hit are scaled down evenly to reach this limit. This means that extremely high damage hits stop improving Leech past a certain point, but increasing your Leech percentage will always increase the amount of the resource you are gaining. So they explained this earlier where what they wanted to do was make investment in leech recovery better than just saying more damage equals more leech. So I'm assuming this is why. Sorry, 1 second. My door is being knocked on. I will be right back. All right, sorry about that. Okay. Where were we here? So yeah, so instead of just increasing your damage to get more out of the leech, now you have to actually invest in the passive tree. Again, 40,000 seems low though. The formula for chances to deflect have been adjusted as well to provide better scaling with investment into deflection rating. With a cap of 95% chance to deflect, similar to chance to evade being capped at 95. Okay. It definitely needed better scaling, that's for sure. The new chance to deflect is 150 times formula of 1 minus A divided by formula A plus 0.12 times D, or attacker accuracy rating and defender deflection rating. Interesting. This makes for a more linear path that gets rewarded at higher investments. That's fair. Cool. Parry, shield block, and resonating shield no longer delay heavy stun buildup from decaying longer than expected. Yeah, that was... We noticed that, right? Because when you got hit by it, it would lock. And then go down longer. Huh. I never read that on that, but... I mean, that's just a bonus, I guess. Melee attacks now only apply splash damage once per damaging area. Some attacks create multiple damaging areas during use. For example, Whirling Assault creates multiple damaging areas around you as you move. Huh. Trying to think of an example. Melee attack. So if you have a single AoE instance and it hits a single enemy, that enemy would explode with a splash, for example. So what I'm thinking it's saying is if you have that one instance of damage from a slam attack, let's say, and you hit 5 enemies, it doesn't splash 5 times, like one from each enemy it hits. It's my kind of understanding of this. So I guess it's a nerf for clear abilities, kind of. Or at least certain ones. When minions are removed due to resource changing, such as weapon swapping, the younger or newer minions are now prioritized for removal over older ones to avoid wasting minion cooldown abilities unnecessarily. For removal. Oh, interesting. Okay. Interesting. I guess that's better. I'm surprised they haven't... The two things I was interested about was the weapon swap with minions, but particularly with Infernal Legion. Because I think the Infernal Legion Elephant was like the best summon, like, minion class. And I disliked it very much. Just because it's kind of... I don't know. Not sure. Like, my brain wants to say boring, but that's not quite it, because I like Righteous Fire. But this is just kind of like a walk forward weapon swap, because the elephants were so slow that they wouldn't keep up with you. So you'd put them on the other weapon that couldn't have them as much, and you just swap back and forth to resummon them in the new location. Minions affected... Oh, I guess that... Unless you have 0, that would keep the older minions alive longer, so they would die normally with this. Huh. Minions affected by Last Gas support or Revenge lineage support, and totems affected by the unnamed Heartwood Oracle notable skill no longer die during the effect after taking further damage exceeding the max life. Oh, so that kind of nerfs the detonator one, right? Because you would do the... I guess it was similar to, like, Popcorn Huey 1 build, where it would just be the Summon Raging Spirits, and they would just burn themselves and explode right away. I never really played with this, but it's interesting. Stats worded as, when you collect a remnant, no longer give you the benefits of these stats when an ally shares the effects of one with you. Oh. That kind of sucks for, like, support builds. I wonder if... Because there was an item that allows remnants to be shared with your minions when you collect it. I wonder if this is to nerf that. So if you have, like, when you collect a remnant or when your minion collects a remnant kind of thing. Because I believe the new unique says that it shares it with your minions, so it would no longer trigger those. Updated the name of the buff that Trinity grants to Affinity Has resonance is the name of a keystone in the passive skill. Oh, okay, so yeah, just as a description update, they just changed the name, so there wasn't two of them. Archon buffs no longer inherently are lost when you attack. This is now a property of Elemental Archon specifically. Oh. I don't actually remember that. New content and features. New Martial Artist Ascendancy for the Monk. New Spirit Walker Ascendancy for the Huntress. I'm actually not sure what class I want to start with for this league. Like, I kind of want to do some weird shenanigans with the Monk, but I also really want to try the Spirit Walker. But at the same time, I like the changes that they did to the Gemling Legionnaire and the Chronomancer. So it's still kind of up in the area. New lineage supports. I have no idea what any of them do, so we'll have to see. But there's a decent amount of them. I'm assuming, like, this one we can get from Medved. That kind of makes sense. And then a bunch of new uniques, which they did show a couple of them off. Facebreaker was one of them. Cat of Nine Tails. That's an interesting weapon. Mage Blood, obviously. Okay, so they are adding Lore Weave. I wonder if they've changed the Lore Weave to be the one... So in the trailer where they said, oh, you know, once you defeat Varuk, there's the flower you get to place in the tree. And you can put the breach rings on it. I wonder if you fill it up, that's how you get Lore Weave now. Might be. The Ordained. Raven's Flock is the new staff. Yeah, nice. Vestige of Darkness they also revealed, which is the bird one that is the... This was one that I'm interested in. Or no, that's the... Auspex, I think. Because there's the Dive Bomb bird, which has your culling effect. And then there was also the gloves that they showed off, which every time you cull an enemy, it increases your culling range. And it said that you can get it to a level where some enemies are executable from full life. So I wonder how good of a build having those two together might be. That would be something. Something to look at. 8 new idols that come exclusively from monsters possessed by the Esmerian spirits. Which is interesting. So this was the big one we saw in the trailer. Added the new Minion Splash and Minion Splash 2 strength support gems. They use support skills which create minions which strike, causing them to have a melee splash, which is amazing. Because there was a lot of really, like when we went through, like last league, and the league before, trying to collect all of the specters, there was a lot of cool ones that I liked that were doing attack stuff. But just because there wasn't really a way of giving them any clear, that sucked. So this solves that, which kind of wants me to do a minion-based thing again. Just so that we can try out... I'm assuming a lot of the new creatures can also be spectered. So... there's that too. Yeah. Fragment Stash tab is now available for use in PoE 2. If you've previously purchased one in the first game, it's automatically made available to you once the patch is deployed. There you go. That's good. So my question before when we watched it, when they said about the stash tabs was, are we going to get one? Because technically it's different, but it's kind of the same. It is. So that's nice. Also added support for build guides, which I am very much looking forward to. I don't normally follow build guides too much, but I like having them at least as a starter sometimes if I'm trying an archetype that I've never played before. Like, I've never really done like an attribute stacker, so I might at least start by following one so you can kind of get the idea of how the build works, and then we can kind of customize it if we want to. But that's really nice. The ability to quickly search the trade market for an item you have, they showed that off. That's also really nice. Party play, you can now quickly revive party members after defeating a boss, which is great. You can skip dialogue sequences with NPCs by pressing escape. Reforging bench has been added to Trial of Sekima. And incremental, as always, continue to incrementally improve the sound, art, effects, and environments, which is always... It sounds so simple, but I appreciate their art team. So, Ascendancy changes. Acolyte, of Cheula. Into the Breach skill granted by Waking Dream now grants Leech 20% of your max life to you when collecting a red flame, previously 15, so buffed by 5%, and Leech 20% of max mana when you collect a blue. So those have been buffed by 5%, which is nice. The wording of Into the Breach skill has also been updated to clarify behavior ranges related to them. And Into the Breach now applies modifiers to Remnant pickup range to the range at which they can be seen. It's purely a visual change. Okay, that's fair. Blood Mage. Vitality Siphon notable skill now grants 20% of spell damage Leech's life, up from 10. So doubled. That's nice. Okay, so here's one of the big ones. Chronomancer. The Rapid River notable has been removed, and its position has been taken by Now and Again, which has been reworked. All your Cascade spells have a 20% chance to echo, and all of your echo ones have a chance to repeat, which is kind of cool. Or no. Okay, that was differently. I think it was Cascadable have a chance to echo, and your echo have a chance to cascade. But now it's Cascade spells have a chance to echo, and repeatable spells have a chance to repeat. I don't know if that's a change, or I'm misremembering, or a typo. I don't remember. But still, it's cool. Unbound Encore has taken the previous position of Now and Again. Ultimate Command now requires Unbound Encore. We'll get a better view of this later, once we actually have the tree in front of us. Phased Form, preceding footprints in the sand. Take 30% less damage, and 4 seconds after being damaged by an enemy hit, take damage equal to 30% of that hit's damage. So, this is actually better than it sounds. So, if I'm understanding this correctly, you take, like, an enemy hit does 100 damage. You take 30 less, so the actual hit is 70. And then after 4 seconds, you take 30% of 70. So it's still a reduction by... not a massive percent, but still pretty decent. And I think that's better when if you're thinking armor, right? Because you're also taking those larger hits and turning them into smaller hits, which makes armor more effective. So, that's cool. Temporal Rift skill also has been updated. Now has a cast time of 0.1 instead of 0.5, and also removes delayed damage from phased form, which is nice. Inevitable Agony skill has been reworked. It is no longer a curse, and has a 2-second cooldown. The debuff is now a life loss effect instead of a secondary hit damage, and the debuff amount is now displayed on the health bars. The debuff now instantly culls enemies when life loss reaches culling strike threshold. So, it's kind of like Doom, I guess, from like Slay the Spire. So it's like, if like they have 100% health, and then you do enough damage to build up 20% of the debuff, once they reach 20% health, it'll instantly kill them by like doing damage equal to that, which is cool. Also grants debuff targets lose life equal to 25% of hit damage dealt to them while debuffed. Previously 50. Okay, so they lose life. And it's hit damage, it's not spells, which is nice. Enemy curse effectiveness no longer applies to the skill, meaning unique enemies have the same effectiveness as previous, while other enemies have less. Debuff duration is now 12 seconds instead of 6 to 8.6. Quality now grants extra meter radius, initial cast radius. Previously cursed zone erupts after a 10% reduced delay. The skill has also received new visual effects. So that's cool. Curse effectiveness no longer applies. Which I guess is a buff. Because I think unique enemies had more curse resistance. Sands of Time buff granted by the Quicksand Hourglass Notable now grants 1 to 60% increased skill speed. That's nice too. So instead of just spells, because you need to cast, now it's skill speed, so it affects like attacks and everything. That's nice. So yeah, like, you get more tank from phased form. If you want to, you can grab the footprints in the sand to be able to cancel out that extra 30% damage you would take. And it looks like Inevitable Agony is better, which is cool. And the skill speed instead of cast speed. I still don't like the swinging buffs. Like, it pretty much goes from 0 to 60% and then back down. But still, it's nice that they've opened up the possibilities for it. Gemling Legionnaire. So this was a big one they showed too. Crystalline Potential has been removed. And Essence of Virtue, which is the Virtuous Barrier. And it conjures a barrier that accumulates protective gemstones based on each attribute type over time, but loses a random one when you're hit. I don't remember what the stats were, but it's different stats based on intelligence, dexterity, or strength. And they no longer have Thermatological Dynamism. It now grants gem quality, grants socketed skills an additional effect. All gems in the game now have an additional quality stat that can be seen while holding Alt on them after picking it. I know it's going to probably be data mined, but I wish you could just view like what it is. Because, like, imagine, like, thinking something might be good, building a Gemling Legionnaire out, and then realizing that the additional modifier is bad, or you don't want it at all. Not sure how I feel about that. I mean, that's the same thing where I said kind of the same thing with the shaman bonuses for idols. But, fair enough. It did look, though, like they're not random. And all of them are set, like hand designed for each skill gem. Which means hopefully they'll be beneficial no matter what. Like the Fireball one was a little underwhelming, but it is cool. But we'll have to see. Like, what does... Like, I'm interested to see what this bonus would be like on Spectres. Like, is it just extra levels? Is it movement speed? Which would be cool. You know, something like that. Still, cool changes, though. Overwhelming toxicity for Pathfinder now grants 50% less poison duration. Oh. So that's bad. So instead of 35% less poison duration, it's 50%. So it lasts half as long. And the Running Assault notable passive now grants 30% less movement speed penalty from using skills while moving instead of 50. So they've nerfed both of those on Pathfinder. And then on Witch Hunter, Obsessive Rituals now grants 50% less armor and evasion instead of 35. Wow. That's kind of rough. I think Obsessive... I gotta remember this correctly. I think Obsessive Rituals gives you the barrier, but takes away your armor and evasion. I don't remember if it's equal, though. Like, this shield is equal to the armor and evasion loss. I don't think it was. It could be interesting if it is, but I'm assuming this is just a flat nerf to it. We got passive tree changes next. 19 new companion-themed ones. 9 new life recoup, which is interesting as well. Because they took it away from the Chronomancer, because they said that they, in the Q&A, that they wanted it to be more general for anyone to be able to pick. Archon of Undeath Cluster. I mean, Archon of Undeath is cool. I'm assuming it's like an elemental Archon kind of thing. But without knowing what it does, I can't really say much on it yet. Ancestral Bond now causes place totems to have no cost and not require consuming charges to place. It still causes them to reserve spirit, and now doubles totem limit instead of removing it completely. Aww. Aww. I mean, it is nice that they have no cost and don't require charges. Like, that's big. But still. Well, the other thing, too, is even with the totems, you want them to consume charges because it generally empowers the totem as well. It's not just a restriction of placing them. So the more, more charges you consume, the better the ability is generally. I mean, if you... I don't know, I haven't used the totems in PoE 2 too much. But to me, no cost... I'm trying to think of any of the totems that I would say, oh yeah, you can just throw them down, don't worry about how many charges they're consuming. Because generally it's a huge buff. And the fact that it just doubles the totem limit, but removing it kind of kills the spirit stacking totem build. Not sure. I think that's worse, though. I guess it depends on the totem limit. Like how... Like, again, because I didn't play this build, I'm not familiar too much. But could you normally place much more than double the limit? Because if so, then it's kind of a nerf. Yeah, I'm not sure. Because if it said does not require consuming charges to place, but counts as if consuming charges, then that's good. But I'm assuming that's not this. We'll have to see it later. Trusted Kinship. So yeah, so I'm assuming they buffed pretty much all the companion stuff. Now grants 30% more reservation efficiency for companion skills and 20% less efficiency for non-companion skills. It no longer provides you have 30% less defenses, or companions have +1 to each defense. Okay, so it's just reservation efficiency now, which is kind of nice, because 30% less defenses is kind of rough. I'm trying to think what other things you would have. I mean, there are some buffs that you may want, which would cost more more spirit with this. In the trailer, I think they showed skeleton clerics. I think he had 3 of them. So those would cost more with this. But if you're doing companions, I think they generally cost more spirit overall, because they're a percentage instead of a flat value. Like, I think the Silver Fist gorilla boss they showed was like 47%. And I'm assuming that's after some sort of efficiency increase that they have. So, probably costs a lot normally. So, that's always nice. Val Pact now grants 50% more amount of life leech. 67% less life leech speed. Cannot recover life other than from leech. And life leech effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. It no longer provides it instantly or cannot use life flasks. Interesting. So I guess that's good because you could still use life flasks that have like modifiers or something on them that you might want. I guess this is better if you're doing like huge hits versus a lot of small ones. So the life leech is applied slower, but you have much more amount of life leeched percentage. And they're not removed when you hit unreserved life. So if you do a huge hit, well, I guess it only counts up to 40,000, right? So as long as you're hitting that 40,000 damage in a single hit target, then you're golden. Because you literally can't get more than that. I'm not sure. Obviously, the instant leech being removed sucks because that's what a lot of people were using it for. The not being removed when life is filled is really nice, though. Just because... So normally, if you have like 100 health, it will refill up to 100, and then immediately, once you hit maximum health, all of the stacks that were waiting are deleted, pretty much, right? They're wiped. But with this, it always keeps them so that as soon as you take damage next, it immediately starts applying again. So the only thing I would say is the percent of life leeched that you can get high enough that it offsets the 67% less speed of the leech applying. Because it specifically also says cannot recover life other than from leech. So your life flasks don't give you health. I'm assuming if you have an item that heals you when you do X, Y, or Z doesn't work. You know, things like that. I'm assuming... I think there was, like, the... Oh! So there's the... Sorcerer Ascendancy, I can't remember, the Blood Mage, where you can pick up the motes and it heals you. I'm assuming that would also prevent that from healing you. It's kind of rough. It'll be interesting to see how this works out. Perform barrier cluster is removed. Warding has been moved. No longer connects to a jewel socket. So they're reorganizing the actual tree a bit. 100% increased armor, evasion, and energy shield from equipped shield, which is nice. Instead of energy oh, so this is where I was interested. So Arcane Mixtures grants 10% increased cast speed if you've used a mana flask recently instead of 25% increased energy shield recharge rate. So there's not a massive amount of things that I've seen yet that are reducing maximum energy shield, but energy shield recharge rate seems to be way down. Nerf to faster start of energy shield recharge. 6% increased cast speed for each different spell you've cast in the last 8 seconds instead of 4, so doubling the duration, which is nice. You can stack that up easier. 20% faster start of energy shield recharge instead of 1% increased ES recharge rate per dex. So yeah, that's huge, because this was paired with, I think it's Ghost Shroud, right? If I'm thinking of the right one. So it no longer benefits from dexterity stacking. Yeah, so this would be like at what, 80 dexterity? But also this is increase the recharge rate. This is just the start of recharge. So you're increasing the time, or you're decreasing the time from when you get hit to when it starts, but the overall recharge rate is still the same now. Commanding Rage now grants 2% increased minion attack speed per 5 rage instead of 1 per... Oh, so that's a nerf. I'm guessing that's because we have minion splash now, right? So before it's 1% attack speed per 1 rage, now it's 2% per 5. So you're getting like pretty much like a little more than, you need double the rage, a bit more than double the rage for the same attack speed bonus. Convalescence now gets 20% faster start of recharge, well, halved to 20 from 40, and 10% reduced recharge rate instead of 15. So they buffed the reduction of recharge rate by 5%, but they halved the start. Core of the Guardian, 30% increased block chance and 20% reduced maximum energy shield. Oh, interesting. So the other one that we saw previously up there was the 100% increased armor, ES, and evasion from shield. That is moved over to the other one, and this one now increases block chance but reduces your max energy shield. Which is fine, because, I mean, obviously it's not great for energy shield builds, but... Huh. Covering Ward, gain 25 energy shield when you block instead of 20. It increases block chance. It no longer grants increased energy shield recharge rate. Okay, so you get a little bit more. Increased block chance is nice. No longer grants extra energy shield recharge rate. Which is fine, because generally if I'm using Covering Ward, I'm blocking. I want the extra block chance. And it's more about gaining the energy shield when you block. Again, the recharge rate is fine. 15 max rage if you use a skill that requires glory in the past 20 seconds. Previously 8 per skill that requires it, and 6 up to 5. So you get less max rage total, but it's only after using one skill that uses glory, and it lasts a lot longer. So before you'd have to use a lot of skills that require glory, but you could stack it up to 5 times. Yeah. 15 from 40 is crazy. But you only have to have one skill. And you get it for much longer, so. Trying to think. I mean, in the case of like the werewolf build where we did the wolves, I would say I'm trying to think though, even then, like the hardest part is getting all the glory back to use another skill within 6 seconds to stack it up. So it's less of a bonus, but it's way more consistent now. So. But this is also a nerf, I would say, with the minion attack speed. Hey, Auxiliary. Thank you. Slowly working our way through the patch notes. I don't know how much is people's comments here, but we're like halfway down through the page already. Okay. Where was I? Sorry, yes, so because you have reduced rage, it's also nerfing the minion attack speed bonus you could get. Because if it only gives 15, it's 2% per 5, so 3. So you're only getting 6 attack speed. Instead of 40% that you could get if you fully stacked it. I was watching on YouTube. This list is long. It is, yeah. They've said that this is their largest patch they've ever done in both this game or the first game. And that's saying a lot considering... Was it 2014 or 2015? So, like, at least 10 years. So. I mean, so far, there's a decent amount of nerfs to things that kind of needed them. There's some different changes that I'm not sure about just because I'm not familiar with them yet. Like, I haven't really played those builds, so I can't say. But overall, I would say it's pretty positive so far. There's a couple of question marks. Like where they said we've added 30 new maps for, you know, the Atlas in Endgame. But that depends on, you know, are the maps good, right? So patch size must be 20 gigabytes. I'm not sure. Normally they're pretty good at optimizing it down though. Normally. I say with like heavy quotation marks. We'll see. But yeah, so that's... not sure. 15% increase crit spell damage. Previously 15 increase spell damage if you've crit. Oh, okay. So it's kind of like more specialized on the crit. versus bonuses for the spell directly. If you're critically hitting with spells, I don't know the math on this, but depending on your crit damage, I'm assuming the base damage increase would be better than just adding critical damage. But I guess it depends on how hard you're hitting. Don't want your game to be 150 gigabytes? Preferably not. Preferably not. I mean, there's some games I tell you we're getting there, though. For sure. I guess it might be better too because you have more sources of base damage increase, so it's less effective. Cunning Fox has been replaced with a Quick Fox, which is 20% increased deflection rating while moving. Interesting. I'm not a fan that it's... I mean, I guess when you're playing the Huntress or something like that, you're generally moving. A lot of the skills are on the move, so it's easier to maintain, but still, I don't like the conditional defense buffs, or just conditional defenses in general. Because, obviously, if you're not doing that condition, you're not getting any buffs. 15% increase crit chance up from 10, and increased damage if you've dealt a crit. So higher critical hit chance, but lower increased damage if you've dealt one. Fair. Extra chaos resistance start. Wow, that went down. Yeah, they've really nerfed Energy Shield, which again, it kind of needed. Because Energy Shield's been really strong, so 10 from 15%. Echoed spells have a 25% increase to air. Actually, that's nice. It no longer grants final repeat of spells had 30% increase of Ferret, which did not function. I was wondering about that, because it never seemed like it, but I didn't know that it just didn't function. It's also nice that it's all. It's not just the final. Which is nice. Especially with the changes to the Chronomancer and other things that have more echo available. I think they showed one of the... I don't remember if... Was it the boots? No, it was the ring. It can now roll with the extra charges. Or gain extra charges quicker. I mean, down by 5%, but still, that's perfectly fine. 4% increased cast speed for each different spell you've cast in the last 8, bumped up from 4. So just lasts twice as long. Increases Archon duration by 30% instead of 40% increased energy shield recharge rate while affected by it. That's nice. Honestly, I prefer the duration being increased. They did obviously delete the recharge rate. Yeah, like 90% of these changes are nerfs to energy shield recharge. Which again, I get, because it definitely was too strong comparatively. Like, everyone saw it as a second primary resource instead of a defense like armor and evasion. But still. And yeah, they're bumping a lot of faster start of recharge instead of recharge rate. Faster start of recharge and 12 intelligence instead of 10, but no longer gives the recharge rate. Yep. 40% increased damage while leeching life. Instead of life leech, effects are not removed. Oh, interesting. So they moved this over to the Vol. Notable. Huh. I mean, that's still a decent chunk of damage increase. Especially if you pair it with the Vol skill, because the reduced rate of recovery means that it'll last longer. So you're not likely to lose the buff by running in between packs. Uh, 15%, previously 20. Okay, so they've nerfed that a little bit. No longer grants 40% increased physical damage, now grants 3% increased maximum life and 20% increased life leached. Oh, so it's increased max life now instead of reduced max life. But they got rid of 10% increase, which is fine. Extra 3% max life, I'll take it. Mortal Infamy, 6% increased life recovery rate instead of 10% shield recharge rate. So they're even taking the energy shield and giving it to life recovery, which is pretty funny. Because I think life recovery rate still applies to leech, because it decreases the recovery rate of leech. Swap some positions. Yeah, again, they've reorganized a lot of the tree. 12% instead of 30. 50% instead of 60. 10% faster instead of 20. And 20% instead of 30. Yeah, so these are just overall. Rapid recharge, 12% faster start instead of 25 for both. 20% mana regeneration while stationary instead of 30% recovery. Which is nice, because then increased mana regeneration, if you have nodes where you take damage from your mana before energy shield or life, this helps actually give you an extra defense layer. It's not terrible. And this is coming from someone that doesn't really min-max the ES build too much, so I personally don't mind a lot of these nerfs. Like, they are nerfs for sure, and strong ones at that, but yeah. Increases critical damage bonus instead of chance to daze. Oh, I wonder if they're changing those. I think it's the bottom right of the tree. I'm just visually thinking about where it was, which is all the daze nodes. Interesting. Shield gating per plus TS nerfs. No, there's no shield gating. So, like, what they've done is, before, what you could really do is just stack maximum energy shield, and a percent of your energy shield recharges. And what you used to do is stack regeneration rate, because there was items... I don't know if it's Ghost Wraith. I don't remember the name of the couple items, but they essentially say, like, instantly start regenerating. So all you would do is really stack the regen rate, because you would never really have an issue. But then you would also get things that like leech. I think it was leech energy shield as well. I don't remember the specifics. Again, I haven't really played those builds, but they've been dominant like pretty much since PoE 2 came out, so they've kind of needed it. So, yeah. Because like there was some builds too that you would just regenerate it whenever you got hit. So they had not exactly, but pretty much nigh invulnerability. Because you would recharge almost all the damage you took before the enemies would even get another attack on you. And I think that's where the biggest problem was, and why they've done this. Again, I don't know the hyper specifics because I didn't play those types, but that is my understanding from all I've heard from everyone else. Faster start of energy shield recharge, increased evasion if you've been hit recently, but no longer grants energy shield recharge rate, which makes sense. 25 instead of 20. 10% chance to daze instant. Oh, okay, so they swapped that. They took the critical damage bonus, put it on the other node, and brought the daze chance over here. Okay. Damage penetrates, 8% of elemental resistances, and 5% increase attack and cast speed with elemental skills, but no longer increases critical hit chance or increased elemental damage if you crit. So they're adding damage penetration and attack and cast speed. I think I'd rather have the crit chance and the elemental damage, but I guess it's better if you're not running a lot of resistance penetration or using a lot of curses. 15% increased effect against fully broken armor instead of crit damage bonus. Yeah, we also saw that there was a couple new uniques. I don't remember if they were lineage or the Kalguran ones. It might be the Kalguran ones that they're adding in. Where you do more damage. Or what was it? It was something to do with broken armor. So it's nice that they're adding more support for that, because there wasn't a ton. Which is interesting because this might be better for doing Thorn build. I know a couple, I really enjoyed doing that. Just as like a bit of a fun build to try. No longer grants 20% of life leeches instant, and just grants increased attack speed while leeching. I'm guessing they're pretty much getting rid of all instant life leech, which is fine. So I'll take the extra attack speed for sure. Increased block chance and reduced armor. Ooh. See, this would be interesting if you're doing like an evasion build, because then you don't particularly care about armor. And this used to be 25% reduced defenses, so this would be armor, evasion, and energy shield by 25%. So I'd still call that a buff. 40% increased elemental ailment application if you've shapeshifted into an animal form recently. It also priced a freeze, but is otherwise identical. Oh, right, because before it was like shock and burn, but now it's just all elemental ailments. So this also applies to freeze, obviously, which I believe is because there's the new support gem, the Frostfire, where all of your burn damage builds up freeze as well. So that's why I'm assuming this change went through. Da, da, da. Increase spell damage up from 8% to 10. They've reduced all passive skills that grant faster start of recharge from 15 to 6. Which is a decent amount. A little more than half. Small passive skills that granted energy shield recharge rate have been removed from the tree and replaced with faster start. Yeah, so they've just gutted recharge rate. Which I think is fine. I kind of like that energy shield is like a buffer where you don't really want to get hit, but you have tank when you get hit. But then you have to let it recharge by not getting hit. Like, the only one I generally think is I want to get hit but not care is armor, right? So I actually don't mind these changes to it. Again, it's going to be way less strong, but I still think it was necessary. If nothing else, bringing evasion and armor kind of in line with energy shield, so that makes it easier to balance defenses as a whole instead of having to do with them individually, like for GGG. So there is that. Passive skills granting 10% increased amount of light leafed have now 8%. So I'm not sure how I feel about Life Leech. I like it in the sense that it's better if you spec into it. But sometimes they've reduced, like this, they've reduced the Life Leech percentage. But again, I like that it's kind of like, it's a defensive layer, so to speak, that you have to spec into, and not just more damage equals more defense, because of the cap they put on it. But I'm not sure. It might be interesting with the Life Leech is applied to Energy Shield instead, and then you get the Lich passive where when you have Energy Shield, your health total cannot change. The only scary thing about that is you cannot recover life other than by Leech. So if you ever take health damage, you cannot recover it until you go back to town. Unless there's something else that maybe applies that I'm not thinking of or don't know about. Small area of effect banner skills are down in percentage by a little bit. Same with banner area of effect. Unsavored Feast no longer grants 20% instant. It now grants Life Leech 35% faster if you have at least 100 tribute. Okay, so they got rid of the instant leash, but increased it by 10% of the speed of which you leech that life. So that would actually make up for a lot of the downside that the Vol skill has too. Because I think that was, what, 60-something percent? I want to say it was something weird. It's like 63 or 61% slower. So you're pretty much getting rid of half of that downside. Okay, skill changes. I'm going to go through these pretty quick because I'm not familiar with every single skill in the game, but we'll get through this here. Fixed a number of skills with a fixed number of projectiles can now benefit from effects that cause projectile count modifiers to apply to something else instead, like Ricochet. Oh, interesting. Skills which have a cost of 0 mana now display this cost. This allows players to distinguish between skills like default attacks, which don't have a cost at all, Oh, interesting, yeah. Because they are no longer affected by cost modifiers from those that have a base cost of 0, but are affected. Interesting. Yeah, it's better clarity. Crossbow ammunition skills have a base cost of 0 rather than having their costs completely disabled, meaning that increased costs apply. Ignites inflicted on targets of oil ground. Ground has been can no longer compound and cannot be compounded with by other ignites with the same skill use. Ooh, that kind of sucks. So I think you used to be able to like chain them by oiling the ground under a bunch of enemies, ignite one, and then it like keeps getting higher damage numbers as it spreads. But I'm assuming that this is being removed, which kind of sucks. Condition overload. I mean, condition overload is a bit different. If I'm remembering correctly, condition overload just means you deal more damage based on how many... Well, yeah. Well, I think it's that oiled... Like, the oiled ground is like a slow effect, but it increases the ignite if you ignite them, right? Like, they get the covered in oil or whatever it's called. So, for example, if you ignite the first target in oil, I don't remember the exact percent, let's just say 50%. So, instead of 100 damage, ignite, it would be 150, right? But when that ignite of 150 spreads to another target in the oil, the 150 goes up by another 50%. So what you could do is like spray and get a lot of targets covered in oil, ignite one, and then it would kind of spread throughout, dealing more damage the more enemies it links to. So it requires a little bit more setup, but you can wipe. Pitch and tar, pretty much, yeah. So I'm assuming that's what they mean, is like it only applies, like it doesn't keep stacking it. Yeah, cannot be compounded by other ignites from the same skill use. So yeah, it's preventing that, like, you know, kind of snowballing effect you can get. Which kind of sucks, but, you know, fair. Command skills have a 50% movement speed penalty instead of 70, so actually it's better. Reduced by, like, 20%. Modifiers to cooldown recovery rate also apply to visage appearance frequency. That's cool. So the Oracle has an ability that spawns like a phantom image of your character using a skill, which is, it's kind of like your character reading the future. And if you use that skill next, it gets like really good bonuses. So now they're saying 50%, or sorry, modifiers to cooldown recovery rate also apply to it, so that the cooldown of it appearing is less, so you can actually see it and get the damage bonuses more often, which is cool. No longer has a hidden delay between skill use. 50% of the attack time. Bone Storm is no longer sustained, which is interesting. That's the one where you press and hold it to summon more bones and then shoot them in like a line in front of you. Bone Shatter, increased attack speed based off quality, going down actually. Nerf in level 11 damage. Nerf in skill level 20 damage. Oh, Comet just got nerfed across the board when it comes to damage. Although the Comet spam build was pretty strong, so I think that's why they're targeting it. Call the Weak now can't be evaded. That's cool. Deals much more damage. Or higher percent of attack damage. Attack speed is now 75 instead of 60%, so it attacks faster. And costs less mana. And the dash range has been improved. That's nice. Which, Call of the Week, I believe, is the dash to a target. And if they're within call range, it instantly kills them. And you get a charge. Which is nice. Which they might be doing this too, because there's the new gauntlets that really incentivize cull. And not a lot of people like the way charges are implemented right now. Because unlike Path of Exile 1, so in PoE 1, if you're not familiar, every charge you have on you does something innately. And then there's abilities that can also spend them. So for example, the one that I remember is like every endurance charge gives you, I think, physical and elemental damage reduction percentage. So just like having 10 of them on you makes you take, I don't remember the exact percent, let me just say 30%. 30% less elemental and physical damage. So you just take less damage by having them. In PoE 2, they have no innate effects. They're just used as a resource for doing things like summoning totems, using certain abilities, that kind of thing. Which is unfortunate. I like the other way, but... And then they also did some weird stuff, like in PoE 1, you could just summon totems. Like, it didn't cost any charges at all, but in this game, it does cost charges. So it's like, it kind of feels weird because it might not be, but it feels like they said, hey, here's this cool thing. We realize that not many people use charges, so here's a reason to use them. Right? So, I'm not sure on that one. No longer has movement speed penalty during use, increased base radius. So this is why they reduce the percentage of radius then, because they're increasing the base of the skill, which is nice. From 4.5 meters up to 6 is a decent jump. Aftershock does much more damage. Eternal Rage can no longer be activated if in specific weapon sets. It is now required to be active in both and will fail to activate it if this is not possible. Oh, interesting. So people would weapon swap to be able to turn it on or off. Because I think Eternal Rage is just, it's on and it automatically turns off if you reach like 1% life. I don't think I used it before. But that's kind of like how Righteous Fire works, is like it does self-damage and then it automatically turns off when it gets to one. I don't recall. So that might be similar, and maybe people were using it to toggle between like that. Which is, I kind of hope they did that with minions too. I really don't like the Infernal Legion having to just weapon swap to resummon them because there's your minions are so slow they can't get to the enemies before you do. But we'll see. Feral Invocation no longer bypasses cooldown of skills. Flame Breath has an energy gain penalty similar to Incinerate now. That kind of sucks. Fortifying Cry now only consumes 1 stack when you detonate a shield wall to create a shockwave around each shield wall segment. Shockwaves from a single shield wall cannot hit the same enemy. Oh, they got rid of shotgunning with the shield wall. Shield wave now deals added physical damage per armor on the shield. So they got rid of shotgunning with the shield, which really sucks, but they increased the damage scaling from your shield armor. Which again, kind of sucks, but... Or wait, sorry. Yeah, they've increased it per 15. Okay. Frag rounds gives you extra fragmentations per shot instead of... Oh. Not sure about that one. I mean, the extra projectiles in the shotgun are nice, but remember, more is better than increased, right? Because increased is percentage up, more is multiplicative. So it's a decent chunk of your damage you're losing. But I guess you're using fragmentation rounds more to ricochet between targets and shatter frozen targets. So being able to hit more targets with each shot, I guess, is better. They could have saved 90% of the patch notes by saying, we nerfed the shield. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Although, to be fair, compared to a lot of other companies that do patch notes, which I do like when they actually put patch notes out, a lot of, like, some games that don't, I'm like, I really wish you did. Looking at you, the Bazaar. But even the ones that do put patch notes out that say, we've buffed this, we've done this kind of thing, I really like the actual details that they put in this. Sony and Nintendo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because then it's better for the player base because they know exactly the changes. But I guess Path of Exile, I mean, there's probably other games too, but Path of Exile generally has a lot of, like, very technical people. Like, there's a reason it draws that particular mind to the game, especially with, like, the passive trees, all the build options. Like, we're talking about how, you know, Path of Building is a community-made program that does, like, damage calculations to an insane degree, right? So being able to see very specific numbers and, like, durations, percentages, that kind of thing, really improves the experience of knowing what the changes actually do. Now, to be fair, I don't know all of what they do because I am, for example, Lightning Arrow. I've really not done a Lightning Arrow build before, so I'm not very sure on this, but I can say, generally, if you had 50% attack speed and they brought it down to 20, that's a 30% nerf. Generally, right? So at least there's a way of me kind of doing that. My face went hardcore. 2 date damage. Calc Excel sheet goes burn. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But that's the thing too, is, like, I'm not a, like, I have to do them for a lot of stuff, but I'm not as much of a fan of Excel sheets, but I don't mind using Path of Building because they've set it up pretty well. Now, there are some things where it's like, it can't calculate 100%, so you do need to kind of test things. Like, there's, like, specific combinations of the way the code works that it's like, oh, you have infinite health, but you actually don't. It's more that if it rolls successfully, like, one of them is, there's a shield that when you block, you gain energy shield. So because you have a 100% block chance in that instance, you always get energy shield when you block in Path of Exile 1. So if you have enough health and armor, it estimates you have infinite health. You can still get one shot, but it thinks that because you're always gaining resources, you'll never be out of resources, which is not always the case. So there is some things where you have to kind of pay attention to, but for the most part, it's pretty good. It gives you a good estimation, at least. Freezing Salvo now has more chill magnitude inflicted. Wow, that's a lot less. Down from 107% to 68%. Now causes timely dash to explode a Tempest Bell on hit, creating a massive shockwave that deals decent amount of attack damage, actually. Shock ground is left in the wake of the Tempest Shockwave. Previously on perfect dash. Oh, interesting. So they're changing it to where instead of doing the perfect dash, you want to kind of combo this with the bell. I wonder if this works on the bell, the frozen bell that's summoned by the Monk Ascendancy. That'd be pretty cool. It now has longer perfect timing window instead of maximum shockwaves per use. Which, I guess, makes sense since it's set to 50 now. Ghost Dance. Okay, this was one of the passives that really buffed Energy Shield. The interval between gaining Ghost Shrouds is no longer a duration. It now has modifiers to cooldown recovery rate. Also applied to Ghost Shroud gain frequency. Okay. And when hit, lose a Ghost Shroud and regenerate Energy Shield equal to 2% of your evasion rating per second if you've lost a Shroud recently, which is within 4 seconds. Now gain a Ghost Shroud every 11 to 10 seconds instead of 6 at highest rank. So you're gaining... Okay, so you're gaining the ability to use modifiers to cool down recovery rate to apply to it. But instead of gaining a amount, I believe it was instant. So they don't have it here. But it's when you get hit, it consumes a Ghost Shroud and you instantly recover a percentage of your evasion rating. I believe that's what it was. But now you lose a Ghost Shroud and you regenerate 2% per second, technically up to 4 seconds. But this is also a nerf for a different reason. So the way they have done this, if you lose a Shroud, sorry, when hit, lose a Shroud, and you regenerate per second if you have lost a Shroud recently. Again, recently is 4 seconds normally. The downside of this is that if you get hit, like say you have, 4 Ghost Shroud stacks. If you get hit 4 times within a single second, it doesn't increase the duration of the recovery. You still have only been hit. You've lost it within 4 seconds. So this is really bad if you're getting hit by a lot of monsters, because it could shred all of your stacks, but you don't gain any benefit because it's not increasing the amount of recovery at all. So you have to be more careful not to get hit. Or if you want to proc it, get hit once and then evade for the 4 seconds. So yeah, I would say that's definitely worse. I wouldn't say that the item is bad now. Like, it's still pretty good, especially if you're stacking evasion rating. Because now also... Oh, it's also good because now that there's not really any energy shield recharge rate, this is a solid way of getting, like, flat regeneration. And I believe this is, like, you're regenerating and it's not stopped on taking damage. So it's constant regeneration even if your energy shield takes damage. So I think it's still good, especially if you're doing evasion stacking. But not nearly as good as it was before. Yeah. Grim Resurrection now has a 1 second cooldown, so you can't just spam it. Ice Shards no longer have freeze buildup. They have also reduced a lot of freeze buildup. I'm not sure why. maybe... I wonder if it has to do with the elemental ailment trigger metagem. So they want you applying less freeze, which kind of feels bad, but... Ice Strike quality now grants more attack. Oh, actually worse attack speed. So this is 20% increase attack speed instead of 10% more. Again, more is multiplicative, so it actually, I think, is... In this case, more would be better than increased. Lightning arrow beams no longer chain to the same target. That sucks, because that was a way of being able to kind of burst a single target. Moonbeams are no longer considered melee skills. I didn't know that they were, honestly. But I guess that makes sense since it's a melee skill, like summoning it, but... Or no, that's just the howl, and then you transform. Huh. I wonder what they're counted as now. Magma barrier. Nerfed fire damage. Mirage Archer and Mirage Deadeye can now be used with channel skills, including Snipe, Plasma Blast, and Detonating Arrow. That's cool. So before they had to use instants. Oh, that would be really cool. So Plasma Blast, my goodness, is like you charge up like a railgun pretty much and then fire it, and it does a ton of damage. So like if you could summon a bunch of like Mirage Archers and then they just sit there and charge and then just absolutely like ion cannon strike someone to death. That would be pretty funny. Huh. I wonder, so Snipe, for example, I think has a window where it does like a perfect strike. I wonder if the Mirage Archer's AI has like a priority to wait until that window and it will hit the window every time. If it does, that's incredible. If it just kind of keeps using it on cooldown, that's not as great. Depends on how they coded the AI to kind of receive that, though. Mirror of Refraction. Cooldowns to cooldown recovery also apply to the mirror frequency. That's really nice. Which I believe was it summons the mirrors around you, and if you hit them with a spell, it like duplicates it or casts more of them. I never got this staff, so I don't remember exactly, but the fact that they're adding cooldown recovery applying to these is really nice. So you can just do more. Okay, Oil Barrage. This is the one I was considering. Mana cost has been reduced by 18%, which is nice. Empowered Barrage now has a mana cost per second equivalent to the initial mana cost of Oil Barrage. I believe it used to ramp up. So now it just has a basic cost, which is nice. Now deals 10% more damage at all levels, while Empowered now does 10% less damage at all levels. Oh, really? Weird. Empowered Oil Barrage also consumes a power charge every 1.5 seconds instead. Oh, okay. So remember what I was saying before about charges. So now you need more charges to fire it longer, because it uses one every 1.5 and instead of every 2 seconds. That kind of sucks. I'm kind of surprised that the empowered one does less damage. Maybe... I wonder if this is like actually baked in, or they just mean the statistics of it. Like, the base damage is 10% more at all levels, but generally, the empowered version is 10% less. Because that's a big difference than having more and less damage, like the actual specific letters in the text. Parry area of effect is changed to more closely match animation. No longer has bonus attack distance. Duration is now 3 seconds at all levels, which scaled up to almost 5. Reduced magnitude of poison inflicted from 20 to 10. So they're nerfing Poison Arrow, or Poison Burst a little bit. So they've increased the duration of Pounce. Pounce was... I'm surprised this is the only change Pounce is getting. Pounce is an insanely good spell. Or ability, I should say. So for those who don't know, it's the one we played with the Druid last league. And it's... you jump on an enemy, and... I don't remember if it's like your minions specifically focus fire, but they definitely do more damage to that specific enemy, and if it dies, you summon a wolf that stays with you until it dies. So you could, that's how you would just get a wolf swarm, more or less. And it's also a jump, so it can be used as a travel skill as well. I think it was probably one of the best, or at least one of the better skills from the Druid. But, I mean, that's still significant. 2-second cooldown added. Pretty much. Ravenous Swarm modifier. Oh, this one's good too. So Ravenous Swarm is the passive one that costs Spirit, and it's every once in a while it summons a swarm of insects that flies to a target and poisons them, like does damage and poisons. When we were doing the minion build, I put poison damage shreds armor, and that's normally how I used it. But modifiers to cooldown recovery applied to the swarm spawn frequency is very nice. So you can summon more of them, and it's more reliable. Lightning Charge Ren was scaling twice with levels. Base damage has been increased to compensate. Now deals... Base damage has been increased. Oh, it's been increased at the lower end, but reduced at the high end. Shield, more damage per armor. Magma chains 3 times instead of 2, scaling up to 5 instead of 4. Oh, that's cool. More bounces for your magma orb. Reduced total attack time, so it comes out faster. Very nice. Reduced damage on the first slam. Much less on second slam. So it's 50% faster, but a decent chunk less damage. %50 less magnitude of damaging ailments you inflict, but no longer has life leech from explosions. With Bloodstone Lances are instant. Wait, isn't that just worse? So you're getting rid of life leech, and you're adding a 50% downside? 50% less magnitude of damaging ailments you inflict. So your ignites do 50% less damage. Or, well, the magnitude buildup anyway. Sorry. It's kind of weird. I haven't really seen Shattering Spike too much, so... Shield Wall. Reduced damage per armor. Yeah, because Shield Wall was a build that they used. Like, I saw a ton of people use. So you would summon the Shield Wall, and then you'd use your War Cries, and it would shatter it, do an explosion, and the explosion damage is based off your armor, and you could stack a bunch of them. And again, they've changed this now, but before each segment of the shield wall would explode, so you could, like, shotgun enemies. And I've seen, like, I think it was, like, the pinnacle boss, Arbiter of Ash, killed within like 2.5 seconds. Something like that. It was crazy. Quality on Shred, which I believe is the crossbow skill, has 20% increased attack speed instead of 10% more. The other thing I'm thinking about is these changes with the crossbow skills. I wonder if it has anything to do with the bonus quality abilities that you get from the Gemling Legionnaire. Because, like, for example, it goes down from 10% more to 20% increased. But Shred now has a bonus quality object of some kind from that Ascendancy node. Wonder what it is. Snipe has reduced damage levels. Explosion now deals lower damage as well. So lower at the Icy Blast has lower low end, but slightly higher high end damage. And has 33 to 50% more damage with hits for explosions. So before it was always 50, but now you have to scale up. And they've decreased the explosion radius. Spell Totem can now be used while moving. That's nice, because before you used to be able, like, your character would stop moving, kind of do the animation, and then it would summon. Also received an updated animation. Supercharged Slam now clearly states that it has a fixed attack time that cannot be modified. Purely description. So Tame Beast now deal 40% more damage at level 9, scaling up to 84 at level 20. So this is cool, because this is in preparation for this league where we can tame bosses. Now immediately summons newly tamed beasts if you have enough spirit. That's cool. Tempest Bell can now be ancestrally boosted as if it were a strike skill. That's cool. Its maximum number of active bells has been increased to 3 instead of 1, greatly improving its combo potential. Yeah, that's cool. The Shockwave now deals a bit less damage and has a bit of a slower trigger rate, but having 3 of them instead of 1 definitely makes up for that. Toxic Growth now fires 5 pustules, which is the one that I believe puts the flower on the ground and then you can poison the area to make it pop. Might be the other one that I'm thinking of. With a limit of 5 instead of 12. Oh. So you fire more on the low end. Oh, no. You fire all of your limit in one shot. Quality now grants +1 to pustule and limit instead of 2 and 2. Interesting. So to me, that means they want you to use it less often as a combo skill where it's in, like, as it was intended to be instead of a main damage skill. Because you would generally sit there and fire 3 of them and they would just start to detonate. But now you want to fire once and actually kind of interact with it like you're supposed to. That would be my guess on why they're doing that. The description to clarify how it spawns vines. Time of need. Interval between blessings is no longer a duration. Modifiers to cooldown recovery also apply to blessing frequency. Interval has been reduced, which is a bonus. So instead of it happening every 10 seconds, it happens every 8 seconds, and your cooldown recovery applies to that. So you can get that down. That's pretty cool. Volcano has base critical hit chance up 5 to 8. What you need now is increase attack speed instead of more. So yeah, they're decreasing almost all the quality from increase to more. I wonder if they're also... Oh, the other thing I was thinking of is I wonder if they're doing this because... So there's the new items. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head. The catalysts that you can use to improve or get quality upgrades. I wonder if that's something that's going to apply to attack speed. So they're lowering the sources of it. That might be why. And Shockwave now deals 25% more damage at all levels. There you go. Oh, it's on Wing Blast. That's cool. Yeah, Wing Blast was a little underwhelming, to be fair. We're on support changes now. Unleash, Expand, Salvo, and Freezing Salvo supports all now use the same concept of seals. So this might be why they nerfed it. Let's see. Instead of each having their own version, this means standardized rules for seals that will be consistent for all classes, resulting in the same behavior changes. Supports granting seals now consistently have all have the seal category. Okay, so for example, you could have things that buff seal gain, and it would affect all of them, which is nice. Freezing Salvo and Salvo support previously had an extra restriction that the relevant skill could not gain seals while you were performing that skill. This is no longer the case, bringing them into consistency with the others, which is good. Salvo support previously gave a seal every 2 seconds to a maximum of 3 and provided 2 projectiles per seal. It now gains a seal every 1 second to a maximum of 6. Oh, interesting. So it's the same amount of projectiles, but you're gaining them at the same rate and expending them at the same rate, but you can have up to 6. Which I believe is better, because there are things that interact with seals spent. So instead of gaining a maximum of 3 seals every 2 seconds, you're gaining up to 6 every 1. So, you know, do a thing for every expended seal now has like double the effect. Clubbing seals. Not quite. Not quite. Advancing Storm now supports any storm skill under any condition, rather only spells you use on yourself. That's nice. I think I was gonna say maybe the monk would be able to use this, but I think the monk skill that just released with the new ascendancy is only attacks. It would be cool if it was spells though. 25% chance to load a bolt into all crossbow skills when dealing a killing blow with supported. Previously 100. Oh wow. Okay, that's down. 75% nerf. Although that's fine, honestly. I think it's fine. Impatience can no longer support persistent skills. When you freeze a target with supported skills, for each 2 rage you have, you and your allies in your presence gain 1% of damage as cold damage for 15. Previously 1 rage for 20. Okay, so that's a nerf in a couple ways. So it's half the bonuses, because you need 2 rage instead of 1. And it lasts for 5 seconds shorter. It's a little bit unfortunate. Brink can now be cut as a level 1 support gem instead of a level 2. No longer has combo count loss. Her supported skills incur 50% slower. Now has supported skills lose combo if you generate no combo for 6 seconds instead of 4. Okay, so they're removing the occurs slower line, but giving it extra duration on the combo. So from 4 to 6. Supported skills can now gain up to 10 combo instead of 20, so reduces it. And they deal 4% more damage per combo instead of 2. Okay. So it's the same damage bonus, but you have to acquire less stacks. Fair enough. That's fine. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just clear on 6 seconds versus 4, and it takes less time to build up combo counters for the same bonus. Cool. Corrupting Cry 1 and 2 no longer causes the supported skill to inflict corrupted blood, but instead it triggers a skill which inflicts corrupted blood, scaled by the level of the gem it's socketed into. Huh. I wonder if you can... So I guess it's better, but it also depends. So if you have a cry, like a battle cry that has a very small radius, it doesn't matter because it will always be the radius of the skill, which is scaled by the gem level. So you don't particularly care about the range of the target or the skill this is slotted into, because it will always have its own, which I guess is fine. No longer causes them to inflict decay, instead it triggers a skill which inflicts decay. Okay, so same thing. Oh, they cut Desire in half. Interesting. Well, Dahlia's Desire was like one of the most sought after ones. Like I see a lot of them purchased instantly off the market, so I'm assuming they'll be even better now with the Gemling Legionnaire bonuses. Probably why they got halved. No longer cause curse ground created by them to become hazards. Now causes it to spawn witch toads on an interval which will seek out enemies and explode. Oh! Wasn't that part of the... I think that was one of the lineage supports that came out in Druids, right? I wonder what they turn that into. Okay, here's a big one. Infernal Legion. Now grants minions from supported skills take 10% of their max life as fire damage per second. Previously 20. So they've cut in half. And minions from supported skills ignite enemies within a radius of 1.5 meters as though dealing base damage equal to 10% of their max life. Previously 20. And then level 2 is take 10% instead of 20. And 2 meters. Now additionally grants minions from supported skills have fire resistance. Huh. I don't think that's a big enough nerf for it not to be good. Infernal Legion 3 can no longer be obtained. And there's only 2 to work with that you have to worry about. So they take, so it's definitely nerfed down from 20% to 10%. but they gain fire resistance on level 2. So they're taking less damage anyway. But I still think the Elephant with Infernal Legion is going to be pretty insane over everything else. I guess it does scale less with maximum life now, so that there's an argument to be made to use some different minions, but I think the Elephant, or whatever it's called, the War Elephant, still has the highest health pool in the game when it comes to Spectres, so I think it's still going to be the best one. Especially because they haven't... I'm very surprised that they didn't change anything when it comes to weapon swap with them. Other than the targeting abilities, targets the newest minions. I think that was the only other change. Living Lightning no longer replaces minions when summoning a new one while already at maximum. Well, that's nice. Maybe they'll last a little longer now. Because the problem is that you would use a lightning ability and it would summon the minions, but generally you're hitting so many targets, it summons over the limit. So the ones that are trying to attack get desummoned right away. So that's good. It would be nice if it refreshed the duration like some of the other abilities, though. You can now support any storm skill under any condition rather than only spells that use yourself, same as the previous. Properly it describes that it cannot support persistent. Overextend can no longer be obtained. Oh. Okay. Interesting. I wonder why. Pact no longer causes the skill to inflict corrupted blood, but instead triggers a skill which does. No longer has lose 2% of max life per corrupted blood inflicted by it. Now has supported skills cost 10% of max life each time they have been used recently. Up to 30%. That's a lot of life. Although I guess that does still scale with cost reduction. Still a lot of life. So this is a big one too. Rage can now be used by minions. So Rage, they can now build up extra like physical damage, which is also amazing with what we found before, which is the new minions support gem that allows them to splash their damage with melee attacks. Assault now grants load 4 bolts when you dodge instead of 5, so down by 1. And then supported skills load 3 instead of 4. Also grants supported skills have reduced attack speed again. Okay. And then grant supported banner skills grant deflection, which is nice. I would like to do a team build because I like the banners in this compared to like some of the auras in the first game. Like this is really cool, but kind of need a dedicated squad, unfortunately. Shock conduction can no longer be obtained. Okay. Updated description for static. Augury now has +2 level of supported skills if exactly 2 other supports are modifying them instead of +3. So down. Yeah, again, they're removing the plus levels. Gain 2 voltic charge per meter traveled instead of 3. They gain 1% of damage as extra lightning per charge consumed instead of 5 per 10. Oh, that's cool. So you gain them slower, but you do more per charge. That's fine. That seems fine. Alright. Unique item changes. Abaternal unique boots no longer grant less movement speed and skill speed per dodge roll. I now have 200 to 250% increased armor, evasion, energy shield. So up. Now as your speed is unaffected by slows while sprinting. And gain over encumbrance for 4 seconds when you dodge roll. Existing versions can be updated using a Divine Orb. But, oh, it's only the defenses that get updated. The others will not receive changes. They removed the faster energy recharge from APEP. $150 bonus to max life. Leech 10% of physical damage as life, 10% of physical. Causes blood loss and Val Pact. That's cool. They also grant the Herald of the Royal Queen's skill. Don't know what that is. And the Cultivation Orb outcomes on Acuity have also changed. That's cool. Oh, so these now have increased shield recovery rate instead of faster start. So that would be a reason to pick up the body armor again. Black Flame no longer has enemies ignited by you take chaos and... Oh, wait, they changed that. Okay. So before you used to... This would change all of your fire damage to chaos damage from ignites. So now it has Withered you inflict also increases fire damage taken. Ignites you inflict deal chaos damage instead of fire damage, and Withered does not expire on enemies ignited by you. Okay, so more Withered on the target means they take higher fire damage, which means bigger ignites. So you want to stack Withered, then do a big fire damage hit. It'll get a big ignite, and then that ignite will then also do chaos damage instead. And as long as they are ignited, Wither does not expire. That's a cool, like, ramp ability. Interesting. Additionally, it now has 80 to 100% increased ignite magnitude instead of 50%. And 60 to 75% reduced ignite duration on enemies instead of 50. Okay, so you have to keep applying it, though. Keep building it. Like, the magnitude of buildup is much higher, but it lasts much shorter duration. Ignite magnitude and duration modifiers can be updated with Divine Orb. Okay. Fire damage also contributes to bleed, and bleeding you inflict deals fire. That's cool. Huh. Cool. They reduced the armor on Brass Dome. I wonder if that's because they think people are going to be using this a lot more with the new Runic Ward mechanic. Carnage Heart has 25 to 50% increased damage while leeching. That's nice. Plus level of minion skills. No longer has they fire additional arrows. Instead, it has a surpassing chance. Oh, okay. So, if I remember correctly, surpassing chance just means instead of like 100% meaning it's guaranteed, the higher the percentage, it can actually overlay. So instead of 3 additional arrows, it has a 330% chance to fire an additional arrow. So it will always fire 3 because there's a 300 percentage there, but it also has a 30% chance to fire 4. If that is my correct understanding. Grants charms extra charge per second instead of 0.5. And 2 charm slots instead of only 1. Terra no longer has cold resistance, is unaffected by area penalties, and now has plus 5 to 10 fire and cold resist per equipped item with lightning resistance. That's cool. So if you build up lightning resist for some reason, you'll also get fire and cold resist. This kind of reminds me, not as strong obviously, but the Chieftain from PoE 1 has your lightning and cold resist equals your fire resist. But this is kind of your cold and fire has a buff based on your lightning. But this is per item. So, what? Head, chest, gloves, legs. This is just item, right? Per equipped item, so it's not just armor. So 2 rings, necklace. I wonder if it includes charms. I don't remember if I don't think the charms can have it. And let's say you have a shield. So that's 8. So as long as you have lightning resist on those 8 items, you are getting 80% cold and fire resist. Which is pretty good for free. Because keep in mind, if you have fire resist or cold resist on those items, this doesn't care about that. You still get the bonuses as long as they have lightning. That's a pretty decent way of... Because what you could do is get higher lightning resistance rolls on your gear, which actually frees up suffixes for other items. That's cool. Using a mana flask grants guard equal to 100% of the recovery for 4 seconds. Merry spirits offer guidance, allowing you to see ancient blooms. Remnants you create affect allies in your presence as well as you when collected. Right, this is the one they showed off. And 100% increased energy reservation efficiency for remnant skills. So one of the really cool things that I've seen people talk about is this helmet is allies. So this affects your minions, right? And then there's the Acolyte of Cheula Ascendancy, where you can get purple remnants, I believe, that grant you extra chaos damage. So you could give all your minions a ton of damage. And I think it stacks up to 4 times. I could be wrong about that. I haven't played that particular monk ascendancy yet, so. But yeah, there's some pretty interesting ones that you could do. Husk of Dreams, renamed to Reverie. Rite of Restoration. Don't know what that skill does. Non-unique flasks apply their effects constantly, but you cannot activate or use them specifically. Recovery cannot be instant, and recovery cannot be applied to anything other than you. As well as you have 40 to 60% less recovery. So that's interesting, though. So I don't know what the skill is, but just having constant life recovery, you would just craft a flask that has the most life recovery possible. Because you don't care about charges, obviously, because it's always on. And you cannot use it, which means you can't get bonuses like on, clear... What would be a good one? Clear bleeding on use. Like, that doesn't obviously work because you can't use them. So that's interesting. Reduced evasion rating. Reduced damage as extra cold. Increased armor and energy shield. Up by quite a bit. No longer has +1 level of lightning skills, but lightning skills chain an extra time. That's cool. I actually like that. I mean, obviously the level would be nice, but you know, going full Palpatine would be cool. Megalomaniac Jewel now drops identified, so it's locked in. Plague Finger now cannot inflict elemental ailments. Oh, really? Prized Pain no longer has deal your thorns damage to enemies you stun with melee attacks. It now has a chance to deal your thorns to enemies you hit with melee. Oh, that's really good. Speaking of thorns build we were talking about earlier. So you have up to a 25% chance to deal your thorns damage to enemies you hit with any melee attack. That's really cool. If you do like a thorns build, but then have like a really fast attacking melee attack, that could be pretty solid, actually. Interesting. Radiant Grief unique helmet has enemies in your presence are ignited as though being dealt 200 base fire damage, so doubled. No longer has lightning resist, is unaffected by area. Oh, interesting. Oh, so this one is the opposite of the other one. So this one is, as long as they have fire resist, you get lightning and cold. Cool. No longer has 30 to 50 increased spell damage bonus for crits. 5% reduced spell crit damage bonus per critical hit you've dealt with spells recently. But 15 to 30% chance for spell damage with critical hits to be lucky. Those that don't know, lucky just means it rolls twice, takes the better. Unique rings have been renamed. Bonuses for armor, evasion, energy shield. No longer has enemies immobilized. Oh. So before, it was enemies immobilized by you take 20% more damage. So I believe it would still apply this damage bonus after they got out of the immobilization. So not only now is it only against immobilized enemies specifically, it is increased damage instead of more damage. Soul Mantle no longer has reduced totem life. It now has plus 75 to spirit. Oh, cool. So, obviously a totem item, plus 75 to spirit, goes well with the rune where totems don't need charges, but they cost spirit. So that's an extra totem right there. Svalin cast on... Oh my goodness. Cast on block now has supported skills cost nothing. Oh. That's nice. So, you used to, if you're using the Svalin shield, when you blocked an attack, it casted a skill, but it still cost whatever resource, but now it doesn't. It also has 50 to 100 runic ward. Nice. No longer is lightning resisted. Oh, and this is the other one, where you gain fire and lightning resist, as long as you have items with cold resist. So obviously you can only use 2 of them if you wanted to use 2 because they're rings. Although I guess you could use 3 because there is the ascendancy that gives you the 3rd ring slot. So if you really wanted to deal with all of your resistances at once, that would be a way to do it. Genesis Belt no longer has 10 to 30 increased charms used. Now has 50% of charges consumed by used life flasks are granted to your charms. Skills from corrupted gems have increased cost efficiency during flask effect and increased corrupted charms effect duration. Interesting. That's cool. So if you have, like, I don't know, 50 charges in your life flask, when you use a life flask, however many, let's just say it consumes 10, so your charms get 5 charges automatically. That's cool. And we're down to item changes. So these things they also talked about in the Q&A. I've seen kind of here a couple already. Greater and perfect currencies have been made somewhat rarer. Transmutation and augmentation are significantly rarer. Greater orbs of transmutation and augmentation have a minimum level of 44 instead of 55, so you'll find them earlier, making them more accessible, and they'll drop in Act 4. Divine orbs are now more common, which is nice. Corruption outcome that randomizes numerical values on an item beyond the normal range now multiplies each modifier based on the current value instead of randomizing it. Oh, interesting. Sanctifying an item now multiplies each modifier value based on the current value instead of randomizing. That's nice. So I guess this is better if you get a high roll on the item, technically. I guess it depends what the multiply is. Like, does it roll from, 0.9 to 1.1 kind of thing, or doesn't really say. Corruption can no longer be obtained. Martial weapons and flasks found in the campaign are more likely to be the highest base level available, which is great. You're not going to find like level 1 uniques or, well, martial weapons and flasks specifically. Increased number of essences found in campaign. Amount of armor granted by items and modifiers is increased as you get to high levels. At 65, you should have 33% more armor, tapering down to 15% at level 80. So more armor through the campaign. Same with evasion. And the amount of energy shield granted is roughly 8% more at 65 and unchanged at 80. So again, earlier defense up. Vile robe, energy shield down. Base armor of existing items will be automatically adjusted, while armor modifiers on existing items can be updated with divine orbs. Increased weapon range of martial weapon base types, which is nice. Pretty much all 1.3 and 1.1. Obliterator bow and artillery bow have lower attacks per second. I'm wondering why they're reducing all the attacks per second on a lot of these. Not just the gems, but the weapons themselves. Implicit modifiers for Warden and Guardian bows present chance to chain an additional time. 5% higher. Implicit for Rabid Fury and Magi Talismans now provide 7 to 10 maximum rage instead of 8 to 12. Yeah, and rage is going down across the board too. Because we use those with our wolf build on the druid. Volt Fang Thunder Talismans provide 20 to 30% increased magnitude of shock, up by 5%. Or no. Yeah, up by 5%. Quality items from Breach Catalyst can now be salvaged to return a portion of the catalyst used. Oh, that's cool. So if you put a catalyst on an item, you can salvage it and get a portion back. The plus to level of all melee skills on weapons have a value of +5 at T1. So yeah, this was what I was saying before too, is they lowered all the bonus level maximums. So instead of +5, it's +4. Instead of +7, it's +5. +2 level to projectile skills on quivers is now +1. So they're trying to reduce the insane amount of trying to get those bonus levels. Less variation as well. Plus level of all skill gems on attack weapons can roll only above level 18. Surpassing chance to fire an additional arrow modifiers to quivers. That's nice too. Okay. So all quivers can roll that. Bunch of essence changes. Reduced energy shield recharge. Body runes now grant more max life in armor items, more energy shield in staves and wands, and more leech in martial. Oh, yeah, I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of rune changes too, since the league's called Runes of Alder, right? Upgraded max mana in armor. Upgraded max mana in the staves. Physical damage leeches mana up as well. Moon runes. I mean, you're technically not wrong, since Verisium meteors are how they gain the Verisium in order to craft the runes. And obviously they're summoned from space. So it literally could be. Yeah. Rebirth. Up. Yeah. So pretty much all these are increased now. Mana per enemy killed up. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that went down. More accuracy. More life. More resistance. Yeah, look at that. Like 2% resistance doesn't sound like much, but it can add up. Strength up. Doubled standard rune bonded modifiers. So I'm probably not going to go through all of these too much, but increase energy shield recharge rate when socketed. This went down, obviously, from 12 to 4, but that makes sense since they're nerfing all these energy shield ones. Energy shield again. So some of these, though, no longer adds flat damage, but it does add the damage when hitting an enemy of that type. So cold damage against chilled or frozen, lightning against shocked, and fire against ignited. All idols can now be socketed into scepters. Well, that's nice. Because that was a downside from before, because we couldn't. Curse duration in a scepter. Cost efficiency in a helmet, up from 12. And a recovery rate while your companion is in your presence. Let's see, extra war cry. Power. Again, a lot of these I'm not very particular on because I haven't used a lot of these, so. Blast charges per second in a scepter. I guess this is pretty good too. Increased armor evasion and energy shield while your companion's in your presence. Although presence, I think, is smaller in PoE 2 than 1. So, oh, now that I'm thinking about it too, presence, I think, is like, what, top left of the skill tree, and companions are like bottom right. So you couldn't really hit a lot of those nodes without spending a ton on travel. Allies in your presence gaining extra chaos damage. It's nice. Added flat damage. And it says attack damage. So I'm assuming this would work with the melee splash. Upgraded area of effect. Upgraded reservation. Generate max life. Percentage instead of flat, which is nice because 8 life per second starts off good, but it isn't as great later. So this is pretty nice. Although I guess it is your max life, so it's only really good if you're getting life. I still think this is better though. More accuracy, more charges. A limit now. Other socketed idols in this item also grant their bonded modifiers when socketed in body armor. The bonded modifier now grants +5 to quality of all skills when socketed in body armor. +5 quality to all skills is not too bad. Allies in your presence have 10% increased cast speed from 8's nice. Increased block chance. Yeah, so it looks like all of these they've just buffed by like generally the other ones are like 3% like max life here. From 12 to 15. And some of these have a limit now, though. Rarity of items in body armor. Increased spirit when in scepter. 10 to 15%. 5% extra spirit from a scepter is not bad. Considering, I don't remember what the maximum is, but I think you can get like 300 spirit from a scepter or something near there if you get the... I want to say Foulborn, but that's not it. The Abyss modifier as well as the base modifier. Because I think there's 2. So yeah, that's... Was that 45% spirit just from the scepter? It's not too bad. Like, that's extra minions at least. I'm not going to go... Again, I'm not going to read through all of these, but it's pretty much the same thing across the board. Chance to fork. Oh. Increased Thorn critical hit chance. They got rid of that. Did they move that? Oh. That kind of sucks. Because then you would put, I don't remember the other runes, what they were called, but the other runes give like a flat amount of lightning damage as thorns. And then you would put this on as well. Maximum rage on ruby jewels can now roll between 1 and 2 instead of +1. Missing items. Okay, so that's an extra source of rage that you can get. Which insanely buffs the new Voices Jewel. So, for people that might not know, in PoE 2, there's quite a reduction in jewel sockets on the tree, but they're adding in this league Voices, which is a jewel you can put in a socket, and it will give you 2, 3, or 4, I think, extra jewel sockets. So if you get 4, technically you're taking up a socket to get an extra, right? I think that's what it was. Yeah, so you're taking up 1 to get more, so it's 1 reduced technically. So instead of 4, you're getting 3 extra. But that's 6 extra rage that you could be getting, which makes Voices way better when it comes to these type of builds now. Increase chaos damage on sapphires can be rolled a little bit higher. Modifiers granting faster start of recharge can no longer roll on foci, intelligence body armors, or jewels. Yeah, they're burying energy shield slightly. Increase recharge rate suffix modifiers can roll now. Okay, so they're essentially making it so the faster start of recharge is more on the tree, and then the recharge rate is on gear. It's my assumption from seeing what we've seen so far anyway. Arcane Raiment. Increase energy shield recharge rate instead of faster start. Well, that kind of increases my belief in that. Some modifiers can no longer roll on time lost. Wow. From 40% to 15%. Okay. Across the board, 50% down to 23%. Cast speed modifiers on rings and amulets are no longer shared with foci and wands. For rings and amulets, these modifiers now roll at slightly higher levels. The highest tier cast speed modifier for rings now rolls at level 60, and a level 66 for amulets. I guess that means, like, you probably want to get foci or wands earlier on if you need that cast speed modifier, instead of relying on the amulet and rings. Banner, area of effect modifier on jewels now have reduced values, actually. Desecrated modifiers, that's what I was thinking. Granting instant leech can no longer roll. Hyper damage is minimum. So they're adding like minimum modifier levels. Renamed base type. Oswald no longer undercuts you for the priceless idols found in Act 3, offering you 3,000, 4,000, or 6,000 gold instead of 500, 1,000, 15,000. That's funny. So you get much more out of the idols, which is fantastic. Gold price for weapons for asynchronous trade have been increased by approximately 50%. Wow. When we were doing some trading, gold was already a problem, which is kind of funny that they're increasing it now. Desecrated map modifiers of Union are no longer functional. It's a legacy mod that only existed in early access leagues. Alright, monster changes. Falling strike threshold for normal enemies is now 35%. It's at 30. So you can... This is a buff, obviously, because now we have the gloves that allow you to cull more easily. So you have to do less damage to be able to instant kill. Leech resistance now starts at a later level, and values are lower at every level. Which makes sense because they're nerfing Leech overall. Monster rarities have the same amount of leech resistance. Okay, so it's just a level now. It doesn't matter the rarity. So you're leeching the same from white mobs as bosses, which is good because it's more consistent. Essence monster packs are affected by modifiers to pack size. Spirits released now retain their power and empower other spirits released from the monster. Beam from the Priest of the Sun no longer ignores some walls. Ah, you could beam people through walls with that guy. That's funny. You will now refill some flask charges when Viper Napoatzi's soldiers constrict. Oh, thank goodness. Okay. So that's like in the Vol city, right? And they every time they get smaller, now you're going to get some flask charges, which is really nice because it's kind of rough. Burning Dead and Ogum Village now deal a portion of their damage as fire instead of purely physical. Improved visuals and telegraphing of Lightning Doriani's elite monster. That's nice. You can no longer enter Plunder's Point until you have turned up all 4 map pieces in King's March. You now receive a greater mind rune in Hall of the Deads when interacting with Navali instead of a lesser, which is nice. No longer need to visit the Halani Gates in order to access the Trader's Passage if you've already freed her. That's lovely. Because you'd have to backtrack a little bit. Bunch of UI changes, accessibility settings, increase the size of pop-ups, dedicated keybinds to perform dodge roll, which will not cause the player to sprint when held down. That's nice. Because I know that was an issue where some people would push the dodge roll button a little bit too long and they would start sprinting. A monster would hit them, they'd get downed immediately and then just get, you know, surrounded by monsters and attacked into the ground. So, yeah, that's nice. Show only available option on decout. Oh, hideout decoration's nice. It's just easier to sort through things. For players using click to move, clicking to move while channeling a skill that can be used on the move will no longer interrupt. There you go. Visual clarity, load times, and performance. Skill information pop-outs no longer move modified stats. Notifications that show when an item is in your merchant tab as sold is now displays a different message when it's sold in a different league. Reroll button in Ritual UI now pulses when you have a free reroll available, which is nice. Empowered minions from various modifiers or sources now update the text for minion displayed on the monster. Augment stash tab has been updated, now has 5 sections. Marking an enemy now shows the mark on their life bar. That's cool. Maximum rage, rage loss, delay, and rage loss per second are now displayed in the character panel. Thank you. Increase the maximum character limit of search text boxes to 250 characters. That's kind of funny. Copying an item's text now always copies the advanced description format. Same with an item. Search. You can set favorite trades in the currency. We did see that. Pin tracking scrolls in the social profile. Preview microtransaction weapon skins in the cosmetic shop without needing the applicable type. Thank you. That was also top-down camera view for editing your hideout when using a controller. That would be nice just for everyone, honestly. Like, especially the manor. That'd be nice. Added a feature to quickly change the currency you are currently applying while playing on a controller. Rework the currency exchange UI when playing with controller. Improved target selection when using a controller. Updated and restructured the options menu and enabled in-game clock for PlayStation and Xbox. Okay, I'm not going to go through these, but these are all the microtransactions that existed in PoE 1 that are now available for PoE 2. Then there's also the back attachments, which obviously is really nice. And then helmets. They got a decent chunk done, that's for sure. Enabled all the remaining portrait frames for use. That's nice too. We have a bunch. Character effects. Chest effect. Finishers. And then existing microtransactions brought in. Like, I know they're relatively slow in this because they're having to remake them for everything essentially in the new engine, but still, appreciate all this. And then I think lastly is bug fixes, which I'm not going to go through all of these, but I will scroll slowly. So if there's something you were looking for specifically, you can kind of pause and screenshot, take a look. The only one that I was really running into a lot, but they actually fixed already, was when we were doing temples. We would use travel abilities and you would get stuck in the floor and you had to teleport out. Luckily, that has been fixed already. But at least you can say that they've been doing their bug fixing. Their QA is putting in some work. The Pounce gem did not reflect being a meta gem. There you go. We really hope you enjoy Path of Exile 2 Return of the Ancients. Thank you for your support. And this is just the information that they updated here, which is already this. That was a lot of info. Cool. Well, for everyone not on the YouTube side, stick around. We're going to load up XCOM 2 in a second here. But for everyone else, thank you so much for joining me. I am very much looking to all of the new stuff when this comes out on the 29th. Not just all the crafting options, but which I am looking forward to. All the new changes. I still haven't decided on the class. There's quite a few that I'm trying to think about that it might do. I'm thinking we do like a Spirit Walker to try that out first. Not sure though, because I know a lot of people are going to be doing that, but we'll see. And then we'll kind of do a couple other builds over time to test some other stuff out, like the Martial Artist, the Gemling Legionnaire, and the Chronomancer. But yeah, again, thank you for watching the video. Appreciate it. Hopefully you have a good rest of your day, whether it be morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on your time zone. And hopefully, if you're enjoying this, we'll see you when Path of Exile launches on the 29th. Have a great day.